Welcome to r/Am I the Jerk, where a wild Karen is demanding her fiance's work bonus. Am I the jerk for refusing to share my bonus with my fiance's family? I, 30 male, work in tech, and I had a pretty amazing year at my job. I got a significant year-end bonus, $50,000, which felt like a massive accomplishment. Honestly, I was thrilled. I'd been saving for years to buy a house, and this bonus was the cherry on the top of my house fund. My fiance, who's 28, has always known how important this is to me, and initially she was very supportive. Like, we're so close to having the house of our dreams, supportive. Then she hit me with something completely out of left field. She sat me down and said she wanted me to spare $25,000 of my bonus to help her parents pay off their mortgage. For context, her parents have been having a tough time financially, which I do feel bad about. They're nice people, and I've always gotten along with them. But I've never been super close to them, and honestly, they've never directly asked for my help. My fiance's logic was that since we're getting married, they're going to become my family too, and I should help them out. I was kind of stunned. I told her I was really sorry that her parents were struggling, but I wasn't comfortable giving away half of my bonus. I worked very hard for this money, and it's going towards a house, something that benefits both of us in the long run. I also pointed out that her parents hadn't even asked me directly, so I felt like this was a weird, indirect way of putting me on the spot. That's when things went downhill. She called me selfish. She said I clearly didn't care about her family and brought up how much her parents had sacrificed for her growing up. She said this was the least I could do to show that I cared about them and about her. I get that she loves her parents and wants to help them, but her tone made it feel like I was some villain for wanting to keep the money that I earned for something we both talked about working towards. Since then, she's been super cold to me, like frostbite level cold. To make matters worse, she went ahead and told her parents about my bonus without asking me. Now her parents haven't outright asked for money, but they've been making these passive-aggressive comments whenever I'm around. Stuff like, "You're so lucky that you have that extra cash," and "It's amazing how some people get opportunities like that while others have to scrape by." I feel like I'm being guilt-tripped by the entire family at this point. I tried explaining to my fiance that this bonus is meant to help secure our future by going towards a house. I even said I'd be willing to help her parents in smaller ways, like covering groceries or helping with a few bills here and there. But dropping $25,000 just isn't something I'm comfortable with. Her response, "What future? You're already showing you don't care about the people who matter to me." Ouch. To make things worse, a few of our mutual friends know about the situation now, and their opinions are completely split. Some are saying I'm being reasonable and smart by wanting to put the money towards a house. Others are saying I'm being stingy and that this is the kind of thing you do for family. I'm honestly starting to feel like I'm losing my mind. It's not like I'm refusing to help out completely. I just don't think it's fair to ask me to hand over half of my bonus for something I wasn't even consulted about beforehand. So Reddit, am I the bad guy here? Not the jerk. On the bright side, you discovered her priorities before you did anything like adding her to a deed or marrying her. Find a new fiance. Even if they needed mortgage help, why this large lump sum? Asking OP to fill in for a month or two, or maybe even a few $100s a month may be more reasonable. But a large lump sum of $25,000, this seems like a scam. If they sacrifice so much for her, she should help them pay their mortgage. I would think long and hard about continuing with this one because this is going to be your life. She's happy volunteering your money, and then she's childish when you tell her no. Not the jerk. Pretty sure this is going to be the rest of your life. You being expected to pay for her and her family. If you want that, go for it. I found a Tinder verification code on my fiance's phone. Hey Reddit, this is my first time posting here because I really don't know who else to talk to about this. I'm feeling so lost and confused, and I could really use some advice. So here's the deal. I'm 24, female, and I've been with my boyfriend, 26, male, for over 2 years now. We're planning to get married in April, and up until recently, everything was great. He's honestly an amazing guy, generous, loyal, sweet, honest, and caring. The chemistry between us has always been incredible, and we've been through so much together. To give you some context, my parents didn't accept him at first, and he really had to fight for me and prove himself to them. That kind of love and determination meant the world to me. On top of that, he's super hardworking and often busy with his job, but he still makes time for me whenever he can. I've always admired his drive and the way that he balances everything. I thought we were rock solid, you know? Well, that was until last week. So he went on a trip last month to visit his home country and then traveled to another country after that. It was a long trip and I missed him like crazy the whole time. When he got back, I was over the moon to see him again. Everything felt normal at first. We hugged, caught up on everything, and it just felt so good to have him back. But then I made the mistake, or maybe not, of going through his phone. I know, I shouldn't have done it, and normally I wouldn't, but something just felt off. It wasn't anything obvious. Maybe it was just my gut telling me to check. And that's when I found it. There were Tinder and Bumble verification codes from November 14th and another Tinder code from November 10th. My heart dropped. The apps weren't on his phone anymore, so he had clearly deleted them. But seeing those codes made me feel sick. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but I also couldn't ignore it. So I confronted him about it. What happened next completely threw me off. He broke down crying. I mean, really crying. I've never seen him like that before. He was shaking, apologizing over and over, and telling me how sorry he was. He said he didn't meet up with anyone and swore he didn't cheat. He admitted to downloading the apps out of curiosity and then immediately regretting it. He deleted them before anything could happen. I could see how genuine he was in his apology. He kept saying he was terrified of losing me and that he knew he messed up. And honestly, it was so hard to see him like that, putting himself down and blaming himself so much. I believe him when he says he didn't meet anyone. He's never given me a reason to doubt him before this, and I could tell he was being sincere. It really felt out of character for him, which is part of why I'm so confused. I forgave him because I could see how much he regretted it, and I don't want to throw everything away that we've built together over this. But the truth is, it still hurts. I keep thinking about those verification codes, and it's like a little voice in my head keeps saying, what if? What if he didn't tell me the whole truth? What if he downloaded the apps for more than just curiosity? What if I'm being naive? I feel stuck because I love him so much, and I want to believe that this was just a stupid mistake he made while he was far away and feeling lonely. But at the same time, I can't shake the hurt. I'm scared this will eat away at me, and I don't know how to move past it. So here I am, asking strangers on the internet for advice. Has anyone been through something like this? How do you rebuild trust after something like this happens? Am I being too forgiving, or am I overthinking it? He broke down crying because he was caught. He wasn't sorry or crying before you caught him. He was crying crocodile tears. You know they were crocodile tears. You know he's full of crap, but you have zero intention of leaving him. You've forgiven him, so you don't need advice from us. Good luck. I wish all of us could tell her how much pain she will suffer over the years. He was on 2 dating apps recently. All he's learned is he's going to get a lot better at hiding stuff. And for some reason I looked at his phone, the reason was because you knew he was cheating. Am I the jerk for refusing to pay for my niece's college after she publicly humiliated me? I, 45 female, am child-free by choice. It's something I've been sure about for years, but I've always had a close bond with my brother, who's 47, and his daughter, Emily, who's 18. Emily's been like the kid that I never had, and I've genuinely loved being the cool aunt. Over the years, I saved up a decent chunk of money with the intention of helping her out when the time came. College is expensive, and I figured if I could make it easy for her, why not? When she was younger, Emily was sweet and thoughtful, and we always got along great. I've taken her on fun trips, bought her little gifts, and tried to be there for her in ways I never really had growing up. I've worked hard for my money and planned my life around being independent, but it felt good to share some of that with her. Fast forward to last month, Emily graduated high school, and her parents threw a big party to celebrate. It was a big deal. Family flew in, there were decorations everywhere, and everyone was just so proud of her. I was excited too. I showed up with a gift and even made a slideshow of her childhood photos for the party. At one point during the party, Emily got up to give a speech. It was a typical heartfelt thank you speech, and she started by expressing gratitude to her parents for their love and support, her grandparents for always being there, and her friends for keeping her sane through high school. Then she looked over at me and said, "And a big thanks to my aunt for not having kids so she could spoil me like I'm hers. Must be nice having all that extra money and no responsibilities." Cue laughter. Like the entire room burst out laughing. And there I was, just sitting there frozen. Everyone turned to look at me, and all I could do was force this awkward smile like I wasn't completely stunned. Now, don't get me wrong, I've heard plenty of jokes about being child-free before. It comes with the territory. But this one hit differently. It wasn't just a joke, it felt mean-spirited, especially considering the context. I've sacrificed a lot to save up money for Emily's future, and to hear her trivialize it in front of everyone felt like a slap in the face. The worst part? My brother and sister-in-law laughed too. Not a little polite chuckle either, full-on laughing like it was the funniest thing they'd ever heard. It really stung. After the party, I pulled Emily aside and told her I didn't appreciate what she said. She rolled her eyes and acted like I was being ridiculous. "It was just a joke," she said. "You need to lighten up." When I tried to explain why it hurt, she doubled down, saying, "Well, it's true, isn't it? You do have extra money because you don't have kids." I was floored. I thought my brother might back me up, but no. When I talked to him about it later, he brushed it off, saying, "Teenagers can be dumb sometimes. Don't take it personally." Seriously? That's the defense? I spent weeks stewing over this. It wasn't just about the comment, it was about the lack of respect and appreciation. I bent over backwards to support Emily, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. And for what? To be made into some punchline at her party? After a lot of thought, I decided to withdraw my offer to pay for her college. I feel bad about it, but I also feel like I can't pour thousands of dollars into someone's future when they don't even respect me. When I told my brother, he absolutely lost it. He called me selfish and accused me of punishing Emily for one harmless joke. He said I was being petty and overreacting. Meanwhile, Emily hasn't apologized or even acknowledged that what she said was hurtful. Now the whole family is involved and it's a mess. Some people think that I'm justified, while others think I'm being too harsh. I'm really starting to question if I went too far. Not the jerk. I'm making a list of immediate red flag phrases and I'm gonna have to add to it now. 1. If you really love me. 2. Keep the peace for the family. And 3. It was just a harmless joke. When they demand money again, tell them that you've bought yourself a holiday home and the money is gone. When they complain about you letting them down, tell them it's one of the perks of having no kids. You have no responsibilities to anyone. Not the jerk. She hasn't apologized, which means you're not being too harsh. I understand that teenagers say stupid things, but if she doesn't apologize and repent for humiliating you, even if that wasn't her intention, then you still are not harsh enough. Do not cave. Have some self-respect and teach this kid and her parents that actions have consequences. Let them deal with her. Grow a spine. After years, I finally caught my neighbor stealing from me on camera. So I moved into my apartment about 4.5 years ago with my baby, thinking it was going to be a fresh start for us. It's not a fancy place, but it was safe enough, or so I thought, and affordable for a single mom like me. Little did I know, my next-door neighbor was going to turn my life into a series of bizarre episodes straight out of a reality show. From the moment I moved in, this woman started acting weird. At first, I thought maybe she was just being overly friendly, but it quickly escalated into something else. If I didn't answer the door when she knocked, and trust me, sometimes I just couldn't because I was busy feeding my baby or trying to catch a minute of peace, she'd go around to the back door and pound on it until I answered. It wasn't just knocking, it was the kind of pounding that made me think she was about to break it down. Against my better judgment, I tried to be nice and neighborly in the beginning. One day, she asked if I wanted to go to the store with her. I figured, sure, why not? Maybe she's just lonely and trying to make friends. So I agreed. Biggest mistake ever. We go to the store and everything's fine until it's time to leave. I buckle my baby into the car seat behind her driver's seat and then I walk around to the passenger side to get in. As I'm opening the door, she locks it. I'm standing there confused, knocking on the window like, what's going on? Talk about panic. I'm banging on the window, trying not to freak out entirely, and she finally unlocks the door like it's no big deal. I get in and my baby is crying. I'm trying to sing to calm him down, and what does this baby do? She starts singing along with me. Like, excuse me? You think your singing is going to help? Spoiler alert, it didn't. My baby cried the whole way home, and I knew right then and there that I needed to keep my distance from her. But that was just the beginning. Our apartment complex has a strict no smoking policy, which of course she completely ignores. She smokes in her bathroom all the time, and since our bathroom vents are connected, the smoke fills my apartment. I've asked her nicely to stop because, I have a baby and would rather not have secondhand smoke in my home. She got defensive, denied it, and then started doing it even more, like she was trying to prove a point. And then there was the stealing. Oh boy, the stealing. She would take stuff from my patio, things I left by my door, basically anything she could get her hands on. At the time, I couldn't afford a security system, so there wasn't much I could do about it. Every time something went missing, I knew it was her, but I had no proof. Finally, earlier this year, I saved up enough to buy a Blink camera. As soon as I installed it, the theft stopped. Until Halloween. On Halloween, I went all out for the neighborhood kids. I made treat bags with Play-Doh, full-sized candy bars, smaller candies, inflatable snakes, the works. I put them out with a sign that said, "Take one bag," in both English and Spanish because I wanted to make it clear. Well, guess who decided to ruin it for everyone? Yup, my lovely neighbor. The camera caught her looking directly at the sign, then taking all of the treat bags, every single one. When I posted the video on Facebook for my friends to see, everyone was horrified. But the Halloween fiasco is just the tip of the iceberg. This woman has been breaking the rules left and right for years. She's let homeless people camp out in her parking spot, has visitors practically living with her who aren't on the lease, and there's constant traffic coming and going from her apartment, even though we're supposed to have parking permits. I've reported her to management more times than I can count, but they don't seem to care. She claims she's good friends with the landlord, and honestly at this point, I'm starting to believe it because nothing ever happens. To answer some questions people might have, yes, I did report her to the police for stealing from me. They didn't do anything. And no, I didn't fight her or call the cops when she locked me out of the car and made my baby cry. She's an elderly woman who pretends to be this sweet, harmless neighbor, and it's honestly so frustrating. I know karma will catch up with her eventually, but in the meantime, I'm stuck living next to her. If anyone has advice on dealing with nightmare neighbors, especially ones who seem immune to consequences, I'm all ears. Catch her stealing packages and report that to the police. That said, if you knew you lived by a thief, why would you put something out she could take? Have you heard of glitter bombs? My son is really upset. Well, too bad. The cat is going to an indoor-only home and it's not yours. We've been trying to find a safe, indoor-only home for this sweet stray cat that's been hanging around our neighborhood. He's super friendly, but with coyotes roaming around, busy streets nearby, and even a highway, it's just not a safe place for him to live outside. Lots of people in the area have been feeding him, but no one was stepping up to take him in permanently. Finally, one of my neighbors expressed interest, which I thought was a win at first. But then she started saying things that made me really uncomfortable about the whole situation. Every time I mentioned that the cat had to stay indoors for his own safety, she'd kind of brush it off with comments like, "Well, we'll try to keep him inside if he likes it. Maybe we'll do indoor-outdoor, just bring him in at night. My 2-year-old is so attached to him, we've been feeding him for months." Yeah, lady, so has half the neighborhood. You're not special. I kept explaining over and over that this cat needed to be an indoor-only pet because of the coyotes and other dangers. But no matter what I said, she just wouldn't commit. She was relentless, constantly pushing to take the cat on her terms, like she was doing me a favor. I started to feel like I didn't have a choice, so I reluctantly agreed to let her have the cat, hoping she'd come around and do the right thing. A few days later, though, I saw even more coyotes prowling around, and it hit me. I couldn't live with myself if I let this cat go to someone who might let him back outside. So I made the tough call to rehome him with someone else who actually committed to keeping him indoors. When I told her, she went off the rails. She sent this long dramatic message about how I'd betrayed her family. "Wow, okay, that really wasn't your decision to make. You agreed and then went behind our back. My son is extremely upset. We would have kept him indoors if that's what he wanted. I'm so disappointed in how this was handled." I was floored. First of all, who lets their 2-year-old dictate pet care decisions? And second, if you couldn't even promise to keep the cat indoors when I asked you point blank multiple times, what makes you think you're entitled to be upset now? I didn't say this to her, but honestly, I don't care about her toddler's attachment to a stray cat. This was about keeping the cat safe, not catering to her kid's feelings. To top it off, she actually tried to claim that the cat was already theirs because they had been feeding him. Never mind that a ton of other people in the neighborhood were doing the same thing, or that she explicitly told me, "We'll see if he wants to stay inside." She was acting like I'd stolen their family pet or something. Anyway, I responded as calmly as I could. "We asked multiple times if you'd commit to keeping the cat indoors only, and you didn't, as shown in the screenshot. You implied he'd be an indoor-outdoor, which isn't safe with coyotes around. Transitioning a stray to indoor only requires dedication. This decision was about the cat's safety, not your toddler's attachment." And then she blocked me, which, thank goodness, one less headache to deal with. The best part? We found an amazing cage-free rescue that will take the cat at the end of December. They're going to make sure he's transitioned to an indoor-only life with people who actually care about his safety. It's such a relief knowing he's going to get the home he deserves. Looking back, I don't regret my decision one bit. The cat's life is worth more than keeping some entitled neighbor happy. As a cat owner, you did the right thing. You saved that cat's life. We had a stray show up about 2 years ago. Our kid fell in love with it. I realized she would be absolutely heartbroken if something happened to her if she didn't come home, or worse. So she's an indoor cat now because we love her so much and don't want anything to happen to her. Outdoor cats are cats free for the taking. I see a pet cat outside, it's my cat now. If you actually cared for your animal's well-being, you'd keep them inside. The expected lifespan of an outdoor cat is 3 years. An indoor cat can live well over 20. An outdoor cat owner is a cat owner that doesn't deserve to own their cat. My outdoor cat lived well over 20, so I don't know what you're talking about. I'll never keep a cat indoors. It's too cruel. Karen accused my daughter of stealing her AirPods, so I banned her from my house. I, 40s female, live with my husband, who's also in his 40s, and our daughter, Laura, who's 15. I have a niece, Kelly, who's 26. I'm quite close with my siblings and their kids, but in recent years I haven't seen much of Kelly as she's moved to another city that's about 3 hours away. Kelly has been around more often with the holidays coming up, and a few days ago I hosted a family dinner and she came along. The next day, I get a phone call from Kelly. She's furious and tells me that Laura has apparently stolen her AirPods. I asked her what she's talking about, and she said that she had her AirPods in her handbag in our dining room and that now her AirPods are gone. She said that Laura was acting suspicious and being guilty. I hadn't noticed anything, but there was a bit of unrelated drama going on at the dinner, so I was distracted. I told Kelly I'd talk to Laura, then I'd call her back. I talked to Laura. She immediately denied stealing the AirPods. She said that she's been nowhere near Kelly's handbag and that it's not like she doesn't have her own headphones. I can usually tell when Laura is lying, and she's never stolen things in the past, so I'm pretty inclined to believe her. I know I'm biased because she's my daughter, but I do know her very well. I called Kelly back a few hours later, and I told her that I don't know what happened to them, but Laura has definitely not stolen her AirPods. Kelly insisted that Laura stole her AirPods and starts telling me that me and my husband must buy her a replacement. I told Kelly that that's just not the case and that I'm sure they'll turn up. Kelly even went around telling all of our extended family that Laura stole her AirPods and that she's a liar and a thief and I'm enabling it. The day after that, I get a text from Kelly telling me that she found her AirPods and that they were in her car the whole time. Kelly seemed to think that it was really funny, but I told her that I really do not appreciate that she jumped straight to calling my daughter a thief when she misplaced her own AirPods. I told Kelly she's not welcome back into my home after that stunt that she's pulled. Kelly got really upset and accused me of trying to cut her out of the family and being too harsh on her. Now my siblings are mad at me for banning Kelly from my house and said I'm being horrible and bullying her. Not the jerk. An adult woman accusing her teen cousin without hesitation. She just automatically went for the jugular without any proof. She should be embarrassed, and the family members letting her behavior slide are jerks as well. Not the jerk. Why would you welcome someone into your home who accused your daughter of stealing? Turns her unfounded accusation into a full-blown family drama only to find they had misplaced the item and treat it all as a joke. No thanks. You're just protecting your family from another incident. Not the jerk. Until Kelly has called every person in the family retracting her slander against your daughter and makes a public post proclaiming your daughter's innocence, she can buzz off. I wouldn't trust her in your home for a very long time. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or Kelly? Please let us know. Kelly, Momele, fee, fi, fo, fele, Kelly. Nice. Following the court order. Over a decade ago, I came home to find I was being moved out by my wife. We weren't in a great place, but I was blindsided. I was also served with a protection order that stated I could not come home without prior written permission. I had to go through my wife to see the kids, etc., and it was in effect for 90 days. I was devastated. A relative connected me with a bulldog of a lawyer. This lady was brilliant and no nonsense. She filed a rebuttal to the protection order, but told me that these things take time and we were unlikely to see a judge before the 90 days were up. She was very clear that I must follow the court order to the letter. If there was any evidence otherwise, I'd be in an uphill battle if or when my wife renewed it. It only took one day before my now ex needed me to take the kids. I had crashed at a friend's house, so I had no place to take them. So we agreed I'd watch them at home. I waited a few blocks away while waiting for an email. Ex called me, and I reminded her of the details of the order and that I wouldn't come until I had permission. This happened twice more that I waited down the street within the first week. So I told her I wouldn't leave where I was staying until I had the email. It was about 20 minutes away. I texted her to remind her. The very next day, she again didn't email. We were planning on me picking up the kids to take them to school since their school was only a few minutes from my work. However, because I had not received written permission, I ran out of time to drive to pick up the kids and then make it to their school and work. She called furious that I wasn't there. I reminded her about the permission and that I was out of time. She ended up being very late to work that day. She then wanted to write me blanket permission to come and go as needed, but my lawyer advised against it. Follow the order. The culmination of this was a few weeks later when she again forgot to send permission. Her boyfriend was staying over, but didn't have his car with him. They both had to get to work, and that was the day I learned that he was her direct supervisor. X had to call a friend from work to pick up the kids and take them to school, and the friend found out. Of course, it got out at their work. Within a week of that, the boyfriend was fired over their relationship and my ex was suspended. By this time, I had my own place, so the kids ended up staying with me most days. I later learned that the protection order was the boyfriend's idea. X was quite mad about it, as it turned into evidence that I wasn't a threat to her or the family, and the judge was quite harsh with her over it when we settled for support and parenting time. She called it intentional and harmful parental alienation. Part 2. So, as I said, over a decade ago, my then wife, now ex-wife, began a relationship with a guy and kicked me out of my house. The boyfriend was instrumental in blindsiding me and planning on how to keep me away from my own kids. Ever since, I've kinda hated him. I've always been polite and respectful with boyfriend because he'd become my kid's stepdad, but I swore if I ever had the chance, I'd get back at him. I figured it would almost be something petty, but then he gift-wrapped my revenge, and I've been running with it for almost 3 weeks now. My kids are mostly grown now, some in university, some in grades 11 through 12. The university kids live with me, while the high school still go back and forth with their mom. I'm also remarried now. My wife and I each have our own vehicles, but my wife owns and insures a minivan for when we all are going somewhere together. The kids are free to use it too, as only one has a car. We only have one set of keys, so I put an AirTag on it. It's a little transponder that tracks its location. I put it on there in case the keys were lost. About 3 weeks ago, one of my older kids took the van out for the night, but ended up staying at his mom's on the couch. Around 7 a.m. the next day, another kid asked to use the van. I pinged the AirTag, only to find out that it was hours away in an industrial section of another town. I was quite concerned why my kid was out there. I called him up, and he said he was at his mom's where he said he'd be. He had no idea that the van was missing. I called the police and gave them the location of the van. Within 20 minutes, they had stopped the van, and the driver said he had permission to use it. Lo and behold, it's my ex-wife's boyfriend. The police weren't very interested in detaining him, as it would be easier for him to just drive the van back to our town and we could sort it out here. However, it wasn't his van, nor was he listed on the insurance to drive it. I asked that it be impounded. In Canada, we can't press charges, but I was adamant that this was theft and that I wasn't going to let it go. Since the guy was out of town with no ride, the police did end up detaining him, probably because it was easier. I was given info for the yard where the van was impounded. Since we had the next day off, my wife and I drove out to the yard to pick it up. When we got there, I first checked for damage since it was sitting a little low. Nothing outside. When I checked inside, I found that it was loaded with industrial fasteners and cable. Think seismic mitigation. Turns out, boyfriend used my wife's van to pick up stuff for work. My wife turns on her heels and walks to the office. I had to jog to keep up. She asks who has access to the van. They have the only set of keys, so my wife is assured only her or me. At this point, I get where she's going with this. I instruct them that no one access the van but us. I had $35 with me, so I gave it to them as a tip. They promised me that no one would get in there, and they had actually moved the van into a secured area within the yard. Then we went home without the van. We weren't even home from the long drive when I got the first text from boyfriend about getting the equipment. I explained that we left the van as there were expenses we were not going to pay: towing, impounding fees, daily storage. I told him that he'd have to pay for them before I pick up the van. He was super mad and swore that he would pay me back. I said no way. Within an hour, I got a call from his boss. They need the equipment ASAP for a time-sensitive job. I explained that it was impounded and that I won't have time to get it until next week now, and it has to be paid in advance. Boss swears up and down at me. I calmly explained that I didn't steal a vehicle to transport his stuff. Boss was having none of that, so I said I won't tolerate that mistreatment, and I hung up. Then I blocked him and his company on every platform I'm reachable on. And that was 3 weeks ago. Since then, I've been able to make excuses for every single time boyfriend tries to arrange picking up the van. Often because the kids don't have the van, so I have to drive them. Boss has gotten through a few times using other numbers, and sent a ton of emails that I ignore. But I did reply and explain that both my wife and I need about 4 hours to do the round trip and that it needs to be paid for ahead of time. And it's added up. $25 a day for secure storage, plus towing and impound fees, etc. Plus, I wanted to be paid for the fuel that he used as well as our travel. He and I agreed on the standard 58 cents per kilometer, and so the boss e-transferred us for the total cost of our driving. By now, the van has made one trip and our car is done too. It came to almost $600. So on Friday, it finally happened. My wife and I drove out and picked up the van. It was prepaid and ready to be released. I dropped off a 12-pack of beer at the office when I picked up the keys and went to grab the van. However, I wasn't going to transport boss and boyfriend stuff, so I arranged for it to be held at the yard at the same rate as a vehicle, unloaded it, and left right before it closed for the weekend. I got a call from boyfriend asking when he can come by with a work truck to get the stuff. I told him it's still at the impound almost 2 hours away, and the office opens Monday at 9. There was only silence on the other end, so I hung up after about 10 seconds. Through this, I've been getting vague updates from my ex, who I've got a good relationship with now. She was livid with boyfriend and was clear with me that any and all consequences were squarely on him. He's kept his job, but is missing the next pay increase and is not getting his year-end bonus. Ex said they were too short-staffed to let him go, but he's in the doghouse at home and at work. No word on criminal charges for taking the van, but Crown handles that, and I'm not suing in civil court. Am I the jerk for asking my pregnant girlfriend to pay for or replace my meal because she ate all of it? I, 26 male, have been with my girlfriend, who's 29, for going on 2 years. Before we ever met, she and her sister had been working on her being a surrogate for her sister and her sister's husband. Global things delayed that. We talked about her agreement before we got together, and now she's pregnant for them. She's staying with them for now, but she comes over to my place frequently to spend time with me when she's free. It's not so bad, but either she raids my kitchen or she complains nothing looks good and wanted me to keep some of her for sure cravings on hand. My parents came to visit me and asked me if I wanted them to pick anything up for me on their way. They had to pass one of my favorite restaurants to get here, so I said yes. They showed up, we visited each other. I ate a little bit of what they brought me since I wasn't really hungry yet and put the rest in the fridge for dinner that night. My girlfriend wound up coming over for a bit after they left. She got hungry and wanted a snack and came out with a container I put my leftovers in and goes, "Can I have some of this?" I told her yes. She came back with a plate and she didn't take some of it. She took all of it and put all kinds of crap on it so we couldn't even share. I told her that I said she could have some and she just ate all of what I intended to have for dinner. So I asked her to either send me money to pay for it so I could go get some myself, or she could make the drive and get me another order. She didn't want to drive that far, and she didn't think she should have to pay me for anything. I told her she should, because it would just be nice of her to do since I get that she gets cravings, but it's not like she's pregnant with my kid or we live together. She left at that point, left half the food uneaten, and I wouldn't eat it because of what she put on it. A couple hours later, my mother called. My girlfriend texted her about what happened. My mom gave me an earful about how I have no idea what it's like for my girlfriend right now, and I need to be supportive and let things go. Wow, you're the jerk. I mean, you're obsessing over this enough to throw a fit and make a post about it here. Just order more food and get over yourself. Yes, she shouldn't have eaten it all, but at the same time, you told her it was leftovers and she could have some. How do we know how much was left? For all we know, it wasn't a lot to begin with. I'm glad it's not your kid. You aren't mature enough to be a father. You're the jerk, because technically, she shouldn't have taken the whole leftover, yeah, blah, 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 I get it. But you're seriously making a totally minor situation into a battle of principles, hurting your girlfriend during a very difficult time, and your comment about it not being your child, so you shouldn't have to deal with the situation, is really selfish and immature. If you care about your girlfriend, you should show some more empathy for her. If you don't care about her and simply find the whole surrogate situation too bothersome for you, then break up with her. You're the jerk. We're talking about some takeout food. You need her to Venmo you for takeout food you didn't even buy that you said she could have? She didn't even eat it all. You just didn't want the rest. She's pregnant. I mean, is this a serious question? Dude, you got issues. Huge issues. Not the jerk. Another day, another story on Reddit where everyone is grilling OP simply because he's a dude. If the girlfriend was the one who wrote this story, you'd all be siding with her. Whenever I want a little taste of good old hypocrisy, I can always count on Reddit to provide it. You psychos never disappoint. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his girlfriend? Please let us know. Lady loses it on a bully customer. I work the self-checkout a lot, and with that comes a lot of mini dramas from people. I'm fine with ringing someone up with the machines. I just ask they have a little patience since there's only one of me. A cute little old lady walks up and asks me politely if I can help her. I say sure. Store is mostly empty and I'm not doing anything. When I start ringing her up, I notice the small box of nails I ring up are $170, which doesn't seem right. Lady, trying to put her card in while chatting to me about cooking. Me, ma'am, don't pay yet. Look at this, is that right? Lady studies the screen. Oh no, it's not. They're not that expensive, are they? Me, no, it's not even the right product. I'm saying these nails are a bar of some kind. Give me a minute and I can key in the right number for you. This is where I started to get a bit flustered. I try keying in the nails she has and something pops up. Try another number. Computer won't accept it. Try scanning again. Bar comes up. Rinse and repeat. While I'm doing this, an older guy comes up on a mobility scooter and sits and watches for a minute. Guy, what's the holdup? Lady, the nails rang up wrong and she's correcting them for me. Me, getting more flustered. I'm so sorry, ma'am. I'll make sure you're not overcharged. Lady, very cheerfully. It's okay, honey. Thank you. This made me even more flustered because she was being so cheerful and continuing to talk about her cooking. I think more to cheer me up than anything. Guy starts getting aggravated. What's the holdup? What's she doing? Lady, computer is giving her trouble. Guy, well, I gotta go. I just got one thing. Tell her to just ring something up. Me, I'm sorry, sir. I'm trying to fix this for her. I'm so sorry for holding you up, ma'am. I know you have things to do. Lady, still being very kind. It's okay, sweetie. I can see you're working on it. At this point, Guy just continues to complain and is getting progressively louder while I'm doing my best to help this lady. She can see I'm getting flustered and starts giving this guy the side eye and giving him more clipped responses. Guy yelling now. Hurry up! I gotta go! Lady snaps. Shut up! She's helping me. Stop bothering her. The guy stares astounded at the little old lady, as do I. Lady, wait your turn. Guy angrily glares at me, then her. Ma'am, I don't want these anymore. Hands me his batteries, gets up from his mobility cart, and storms out of the store. Me, completely flabbergasted. Lady pats my arm gently. You don't let anyone speak to you like that, ever, sweetie. Me, yes, ma'am. And I just rang up another set of nails. Lady, cheerful and sweet as ever. Thank you. I thanked her again for her help and patience, and she took my hand and shoved $2 into it with apologies she didn't have more before hurrying out. Guys, I cried a bit, just because I wasn't expecting that level of kindness. Not all heroes wear capes. Am I the jerk for spending my kids' inheritance, leaving almost nothing to them and my grandkids? I'm 63 years old. I took advantage of better times, financially speaking, and managed to get enough money to save to have a good retirement and leave a good inheritance for my kids. However, their actions in recent years have broken my heart. My oldest daughter is a lawyer, married to an attorney. I have another son who is also a lawyer, a third who became an engineer, and the youngest who is a salesman. I've been a smoker for many years, and the predictable outcome has finally caught me, so I may not have many years left. After knowing this, my kids began going at each other, trying to get their inheritance earlier. Initially, they were frequent verbal discussions that escalated to legal battles. The boiling point came when my daughter forged her brother's signature to take their part of the inheritance while I was being treated at the hospital. Now, none of the siblings can see each other in the eye and only talk through their lawyers. Saddened by this whole situation, I decided to spend the money, thinking that if all of it is gone, they would have no more reason to fight. I donated to charities, bought my wife beauty items, went on vacations with her, paying for the better-looking hotel rooms, no planes because of lockdown travel restrictions, gave my grandkids expensive gifts, bought my dearest friends and colleagues better equipment to improve their work. We bought a huge TV, prepaid for my funeral, tasted some fine whiskey, among other things. Right now, about 65 to 70% of my savings are now gone. I plan to keep enough for the time I have left and leave my wife a good cash amount. However, my kids are noticing that I'm spending a lot and starting to ask questions. My daughter figured out what happened on her own. I had no rebuttals since I'm guilty of all of the accusations she made. But then she mentioned that her kids will suffer because of my selfish acts. Not only that, but so will her grandkids because of me. That made me think that my grandkids shouldn't be punished for their parents' sins, and maybe I was too self-absorbed to realize it sooner. That's my dilemma now. Not the jerk. What did she accuse you of? Spending your money that you earned on a life you wanted? Inheritance is what you get when someone passes. It's not yours. You're not entitled to it. You don't get to dictate what happens until you actually inherit it. You can, until the day you pass, change up who gets what. You got one kid who's not being a jerk, leave it to them. Or leave it to your grandkids in a trust their folks can't touch. You can roll it up and do whatever you want with it. It's yours. You've done nothing wrong, just leave it all to your wife. That's how it should go anyway. And I'm sorry you're at this point, man. The big C sucks, assuming that's what you meant. Karen neighbor is running a business under my bedroom. My husband and I live in an upstairs 3-bedroom flat, and the flat below us is the same layout. The house has been for sale for a while, and recently a woman bought it. It turns out she doesn't have any kids, so I found it strange she bought a 3-bedroom house, but I soon found out it's because she runs a craft business from her home and needs 2 bedrooms to run it. The problem is, unfortunately, she has decided to use the main bedroom, which is below us, as her main craft room. At first, it was fine, as she hadn't fully moved in, but now it's driving me crazy. She's in that room almost all day, and I can hear her walking about and the faint noise of machines. I don't spend long in my bedroom during the day, but when I do go in it, it just annoys me, knowing that she's down there constantly. Like, why can't she have picked the smaller bedrooms, since she knows the kids are at school all day? She always stops using her embroidery and sewing machines by 7 p.m., but she's told me she can sit up until 10 p.m. some nights, finishing off orders, which plays on my mind. I go to bed at 9 p.m., and I can't sleep for hours as I lie there listening for her every move. Just knowing she's awake and walking about drives me crazy, as I find it so selfish someone would buy a flat and work from home. My husband says he can barely hear a thing during the day, and I need to calm down. He also doesn't see the big deal about her using her house as she pleases. Yesterday, I finally had enough and went to her door. I told her how I was feeling about everything and how I can hear the faint noise of her machines. She apologized and invited me inside to show me her setup. All her machines are on some sort of an anti-vibration padding to stop as much noise as possible, so she claims the noise should be minimal and that you need to expect some noise from neighbors. I told her I don't make any noise, and that's when things took a turn, as she said she can hear my kids running around and jumping off furniture all evening, but she would never dream of complaining because it's just one of those things when you share a building with other people. I left before I said anything else I regretted, and I thought that was the end of it. But today, my husband came home from working overnight and asked if I had said anything to the lady downstairs, as she was very cold and blunt with him when he said hello. I told him what happened, and he said I'm a massive jerk. I've spoken to a couple of my friends who think I've handled this completely wrong, and I'm a bit of a jerk for it, but I don't see what else I could have done. You're the jerk. I find it so selfish that someone would buy a flat and work from home? What? She can do whatever she wants in her own home. Or would you rather she sat there in silence on the dole? Can we also acknowledge that OP doesn't even like the idea that the neighbor is awake and using their flat? I'm sorry, what? OP, if you have issues with the mere thought of people living in the space they pay for, maybe you should save up for a single-family home so that you aren't disturbed by people being alive around you. You're the jerk. Yes, a single, childless woman can buy as big of a house as she pleases. Yes, she can use the rooms however she wants, within the confines of any HOA rules and the law. Yes, your kids probably make far more noise than her machines. Have you considered getting anti-vibration padding for them? Yes, you have too much time on your hands if you're constantly obsessing about her crafting. You need to go downstairs and apologize to her, then ask for tips on picking up a hobby. You definitely need one, and she sounds like an expert. Not the jerk. Do you have an HOA or anyone you can report her to? As much as people talk crap about HOAs, when you know how to use them, they can really come in handy. Annoying neighbor mowing his lawn all hours of the day? Reported. Neighbors hoarding ugly broken down cars in their backyard? Reported. I know flats may be different, but I really hope you can report her to someone. Maybe try giving the management office a call. Also, I highly doubt she has the proper licensing to be running a business like this, so there are authorities to report that to as well. Chances are she isn't paying taxes properly either, so a call to the taxing authority might be a good idea. Does she have a business Facebook page you can get on to express your concerns? That's the thing about Facebook business pages. They are a great way to get back at someone. Trust me, I've wreaked havoc on more than a few myself. Ultimately, can people do whatever they want in their house? Sure, but once you're affecting my quality of life, it's time to make you regret it. And don't bother calling me a Karen. My name is Sharon, but I can definitely be a Karen when I need to.
Bruh, these Karens be trippin' though.
Her name's Sharon, not Karen.
Is there really a difference?
Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her neighbor downstairs? Please let us know. Am I the jerk for being ungrateful of the cake my boyfriend made me? I, 33 female, have been dating a man, Alex, 34 male, for almost 3 years. Alex has a 13-year-old daughter from a previous marriage that he has full custody of. When we met, Alex was doing very well. He made 6 figures, and he had a decent house in a fine neighborhood. I had a slightly lower paying job. Almost a year and a half ago, his job had to cut some employees, and he was one of them. He had to take on a job, and he earned much less than he had before. I moved into their house 5 months ago. Since I moved in, I've helped with a lot of the bills, usually half or more of them. Yesterday was my birthday. I wanted to celebrate at a nice restaurant near us. However, it was closed. There was another one a little closer to us, although it was more expensive. I suggested going there for my birthday to Alex, and he said that he couldn't afford to pay for dinner there, and if we went, we would need to split the bill. I was a little upset, but he said he would make something himself. The cake I wanted was, admittedly, somewhat expensive. I pointed it out to him, and he said again that he didn't think he could afford it with Christmas coming up, and we'd have to go half. I told him I wasn't paying for a cake for my own birthday, and he said he'd see what he could do. Well, yesterday came. He made dinner, and it was quite good, better than most meals we eat, although not as good as what it would have been at a restaurant. However, when he brought the cake out, it was just something he had made himself. He said he was sorry he couldn't afford the nicer cake, but he had made this one, and his daughter had helped. I pretended to enjoy it, but after, I told him that I was hoping for a slightly nicer cake. He said he had tried his best, and he couldn't spend the money he had set aside for bills on a cake. I guess his daughter heard, because now he's also saying that I made her upset after she helped make it. He keeps saying I should apologize to her and say that I really liked it. Am I the jerk?
Bruh,
You're the jerk. Wow, you sound conceited and unappreciative of what you have. I would consider a homemade cake and meal much more of a heartfelt birthday gift than someone spending over $200 on me at dinner. You lucked out with this guy, but be careful because it sounds like you don't realize it, and soon enough, he will end up with someone who does. You're the jerk. A 33-year-old complaining about a cake? When there is a responsible man prioritizing his bills, providing for his kid, and being an overall awesome guy? Sounds like you had no problem when Buddy was making 6 figures, but now that he's an average Joe, he's below you? Let this man go and sink your claws into the next walking bank account you find. You're the jerk. Either break up and date someone who can afford your tastes, pay for your crap yourself, or be quiet and grateful for what your partner tried to do for you. Those are the options. Instead, you rejected his admittedly very nice meal and the cake he baked for you and made his kid who tried to help make your birthday nice feel like crap. You're 33. Grow up and act like it. Not the jerk. Girl, you deserve so much better. My fiance and I have a clear agreement that if he ever falls on rough times, I'm out the door. You wouldn't stick with an employer who can't afford to treat you right, so why would you stay with a man who can't afford to? I know what I'm worth. If you want a girl like me, 100K followers on Instagram, 60K followers on TikTok, you're going to pay for it. Don't like it? I can replace you in a heartbeat with a man who will treat me like the queen that I am. Like Drake says, know your worth.
why are some people so disgusting?
Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her boyfriend? Please let us know.
Some of these stories legit make me upset, and I love it.
Am I the jerk for giving the PS5 my husband bought to my nephew? I'm a 35-year-old woman, and my husband is 37. I discovered the other day he had bought a PS5 as a gift for himself, but the thing is, he used my money to do so without my permission, using a portion of my emergency savings that he had access to in case of, an emergency, which I do not believe being able to get your hands on a new video game console classes as. This led to a huge argument, and I took the console away and reboxed it up. I debated on returning it to the shop for the money, but I know my sister has been struggling to find one for my 13-year-old nephew for over a year. So instead, I wrapped it up and took it around to hers and put it under the tree and quietly explained what it was and what had happened. My sister then gave me the money for it. My husband went ballistic, shouting and demanding I go get it back, which I of course refused to do, telling him, as it had been bought with my money, it was my choice what happened to it. He is now sulking and refusing to talk to me and acting like a huge baby. Edit. For anyone curious about our money situation and why I'm so angry, we each put half our salary into a communal family fund for the house, bills, groceries, etc. The other half is ours to play with as we want. My husband always blows through his and never saves a penny. Half of my expendable money goes into savings for emergencies as I'm more realistic. Second edit. Stating here because of comments. He refused to pay me back as it was an emergency. Third edit. I've emptied the emergency account that he has access to and put it all in my personal account that he does not have access to, including the money I got from my sister for the PS5. Not the jerk. No idea how any sane person can read this story and think, yep, dude was 100% in the right. On the flip side, I have no idea how anyone can stay with someone so incompetently stupid as OP's husband. I get that certain factors play a role in not just instantly divorcing or dumping someone, divorcing being a hassle, kids, etc. But good lord, learn to value and respect yourself. Someone nearing 40 with no ability to save money, steal money for a game console, and categorically refuse to admit fault or apologize deserves no charity. Seriously though, how do people like OP's husband get people to marry and stay with them? I totally get that some partners flip a switch after marriage and become monsters, but there are daily posts on here of people with 6 months into a relationship describing just massive red flags about their partner and still wondering if they are a jerk or not. We need more education in our lives about loving ourselves and not settling with jerks. If you've been with someone for 7 years and they've been lazy and selfish the whole time, nothing is going to change in the future. My 18-year-old daughter refuses to get a job because she's a single mom. I have 2 daughters, April, who's 18, and Jade, who's 15. I'm a single mom. April and Jade's dad and I got divorced around 13 years ago as he was having an affair. He's never been in the picture for either of our girls after that. When April was 16, she unexpectedly got pregnant. I took her to counseling to help her organize her thoughts and figure out what she wanted to do, and April decided she wanted to keep the baby. The pregnancy and birth went smoothly, and I now have a grandson, Ollie, who's 2. The father is involved, but he and April are no longer together. Ollie stays with his dad every weekend, and the dad's parents give April money to go towards Ollie's expenses. Earlier this year, April graduated high school. She's been taking care of Ollie during the week, but other than that, she hasn't been up to much. She keeps saying that she'll start looking for a job, but she hasn't even started writing her resume. Besides taking care of Ollie, she just sits at home watching TV. On multiple occasions, April has tried to leave Ollie with Jade so that she can go out partying, which has led to huge arguments. Last week, I talked to April, and I told her that she needs to get a job or go to our local community college, and that I'll foot the bill for any childcare she needs for it to happen. I told her she needs to get a job or go to college in order to stay here. April got upset and said that she doesn't want a job or to go to college. She said she just wants to be a mom. She told me it can wait until Ollie starts school. I told her no, and that she needs to start something so that she can support herself and be an independent adult. April said I'm being unreasonable and that these things can wait until Ollie is in school full-time. She said that I'm asking her to damage him and that he needs his mom. It's not that I don't want April and Ollie here. I love them both. I just think I'd be setting a bad precedent by allowing April to continue to stay with me with no job and no education in the making. You're the jerk. That's basically teen mom territory. You should be supporting her. That's an extremely hard situation to be in. If you're capable of supporting her, you should. As a toddler mom myself with no job or schooling, objectively, you're the jerk. I would hate to be told I either had to sacrifice my time with my still developing kid in the most crucial years of their life or move out. But I also have tried to look for jobs, and my mom told me to stop before I got pregnant. She has never pushed me to do anything like that. She's encouraged it, but never with ultimatums. Yes, you're the jerk 1,000,000,000%. Parents are meant to 1. Set the example for their kids, 2. Be there for their kids. She's barely a legal adult. Her brain won't fully develop until she's about 25, and you're telling her she needs to be a single mom with a job, or go to college, or she gets the boot? She needs community and support. She's become a teenage parent during the middle of a lockdown. She doesn't need your lack of parenting making her life worse. An entire you're the jerk and forget you for that. That's straight up abandonment. You're the jerk. You sound exactly like my mom, the woman who got my kid taken away. My mom hounded me every day about getting a job because she forgot how stressful it is being a young mom for the first time. Every time I tried to do something as simple as play a video game while my son was in his crib, my mom would flip out. She threw a fit every time I wanted to go out with friends or, God forbid, go on a date. My psychotic mother's treatment of me led to me majorly resenting my kid to the point where I would leave for days on end and just block her number. She decided that instead of showing me support and being a loving grandmother, reporting me would be a better option. The state decided I was unfit to be a parent. Gee, you think? I was 19. Maybe my mom could have been an actual, grandma? I feel so sorry for your daughter, and I hope she goes no contact with you, since you're nothing but an unsupportive jerk.
Reddit, the internet's official worst place to seek parenting advice.
Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or their daughter? Please let us know.
Please never seek parenting advice from Reddit. I can't think of any worse place.
Am I the jerk for letting my sister's kids live with me? I, female 50s, have a sister who's in her 40s who sees herself as a my family lives in a camper van Instagram influencer. In 2020, she, her husband, and their 4 kids moved into a camper. They homeschool the kids, travel all over the US, etc. They come to visit for holidays, but we don't see them besides that. My husband and I are the opposite. We have 4 kids and live in a big, beautiful house in Colorado. So the issue. My sister and her family came over for Thanksgiving and spent the night. My sister's oldest, 13-year-old twins, a boy and a girl, slept in my daughter's and son's rooms. In the morning, my niece and my sister got into a big argument, with my niece being incredibly angry at her mother for making her live in a camper when she could have so much more space, not have to share so much with her brothers, they all sleep in the same area, and be able to have more clothes, friends, and extracurricular activities. I asked what was going on, and according to my sister, this has been an argument for a while. Money is not an issue. They had a huge house before and sold it for a massive amount of money. My sister has a trust fund and a job. She just likes living in a camper. After a brief conversation with my husband and my kids, we offered, in private to my sister, to take my eldest niece in. We have extra guest rooms and could make one a bedroom for her. There are great schools in our area. We'd pay for everything for her, etc. She instantly said no, that she knew what was best for her daughter. She would miss her siblings. We didn't mention it again. Well, my youngest, she's 13, told my cousin about the offer. She was very happy, but angry that her mother hadn't brought it up to her. She told my sister that if she made her come live in the camper again, she'd never do anything her mother wanted because it was unfair that her mother wasn't letting her have a true childhood. While I don't condone tantrums like that, I understand where she was coming from and helped convince my sister. When her twin brother found out, he wanted to stay too. My sister asked him what she was supposed to do without them. How was she going to care for the younger siblings without them? Talking about missing out on family trips, etc. But nephew didn't change his mind. We agreed to a trial period, 3 weeks, which ended 3 days ago. My sister came back, fully expecting her kids to want to come back with her, but they flat out refused to even go in the camper. My sister is very angry. She said that I was supposed to make them want to live with her and that I'm a horrible sister for treating her like this. She said I should kick them out, and I said no. She said that I'm a massive jerk and told her kids to not expect her to come back for them when they get tired of maximalism. Now her kids are sad, but they still don't want to leave, and I'm worried I've ruined my relationship with my sister. Am I the jerk? Edit. I've been told that the technical name of the vehicle I'm referencing is a motorhome. It's one of those large, house on wheels things. I thought that they were called campers since that's what my sister always calls it. Edit 2. Someone in the comments mentioned I should add this here. We have temporary guardianship signed by my sister. Her husband came over after they left, and we filled out the power of attorney forms, got the things we need to put them in school, etc., and he took them back and had her sign them. So we should be all clear. My brother is an attorney, and he helped us with the forms as well. I can see why your sister may not like it, but I don't think the camper van life is suited to all. The idea of it would be horrifying to me, both as an adult and a teenager. And I suspect a lot of 13-year-olds would want to have friends and hobbies that aren't just online. You brought up the idea in private, which was a good way to approach it. It's a shame your daughter wasn't able to keep it private, but truthfully, I think she did the correct thing. Your sister asked them what she was supposed to do without them? This sounds like parentification, which is not a good thing for the twins. They should be living the life of teenagers, only helping to look after younger siblings if they're paid babysitters, and only for a few hours a week, if they want extra money. You're not the jerk. I thought that after the first paragraph, and the rest just confirmed it for me. Not the jerk. Your sister sounds selfish and like a lunatic. She wants to live this way, but her kids don't. They need a stable home, friends, family, and education. Living like nomads is not something most kids can do. End of the day, you are helping your niece and nephew out. You're not beholden to your sister or supposed to do anything but help the kids. Yeah, you strained your relationship with her, but that relationship is not worth the health of these kids. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her sister? Let us know in the comments below.
Oh, how I hate moving. I can't even bear the thought of moving every week or so living in a camper.
Entitled stepson expects me to pay for his college. I'm 49, female. My daughter, Katie, who's 17, is graduating high school this spring and was just accepted to her first college last week. I share Katie with her father, my ex-husband, Will, who's 52. But I've been married to my husband, Brian, who's 49, for about 6 years. Brian has a son, Nick, who's 16, who's a junior at the same school as Katie. Brian has full custody of Nick, while I share custody of Katie. Will and I divorced fairly amicably when Katie was young, and we've grown into strong co-parents. Will's family come from substantial money, so as part of the divorce, we agreed that he would be responsible for the tuition and dorm bill for Katie's college, and I would pay for the other miscellaneous living expenses. I've saved enough to pay for these expenses, but I know that if something were to happen to my savings, Will or his family would be able to foot the entire bill for Katie's living expenses without any changes to his lifestyle. Will and I decided to sit Katie down and show her the whole picture of what college costs and what we will pay for. Brian thought it would be a good idea to have a similar conversation with Nick, even though he's just a junior. Unfortunately, the financial situation for Nick is different. Since his mother is not in the picture, it's been on Brian to save for Nick's college. Brian was able to save, and I have also contributed a bit, and he has about enough saved for a full associate's degree or half a bachelor's degree at an in-state public college without living expenses. We didn't openly discuss the specifics of the different finances with each kid, but did broadly say that we had different opportunities due to situations outside of their control. Nick has since surmised that his situation is very different from Katie's, and his choices will be much more impacted by finances than hers. Nick came to Brian and I very upset over the weekend. He said that it wasn't fair that Katie got to go anywhere she wanted, and he specifically was upset that Katie would not have to pay for her own room and board. He then asked that if Katie gets into a school with scholarships, if he could get the difference in tuition for his college. Or he said that I should contribute the savings I had for Katie to his fund to try and make it more fair, since Will could make up the difference easily. I kindly told him that no, I wouldn't do that, and that I'm really sorry about this situation. Then I told him that unfortunately, sometimes them's the breaks in life, and that we will do our best to make sure that whatever college he decides to go to, that he can make the most out of the opportunity, even with loans. Nick was obviously upset at this, and Brian thinks my response to his asking made me a bit of a jerk, even though I shouldn't have to change any of the agreement. I feel like I'm going crazy, but am I the jerk? ETA. I had condensed this post for character limits, but wanted to add a bit about the actual conversation. This was the follow-up conversation to the longer one my husband had with him about how much money we were able to contribute to college, so he already knew the specifics of what we had saved for him. I'm trying to be as objective as possible. Our follow-up was a conversation that was over 10 minutes long, Most of it was saying that we were sorry about how this situation impacts him and that it's really difficult seeing people close to you get opportunities you can't have. I did not default to "them's the breaks," but then yes, I did say those exact words. I must be older than I thought, after Nick got increasingly angry and frustrated. I didn't intend to be callous, but I love Nick, and I will apologize for being unkind and make sure to repeat the things Brian told him about the fund in the first place. There are so many options for you, and we are excited to support you to make whatever future you want happen for you. I would say a soft "you are the jerk" for being so flippant about it. Your son is upset because he's staring down the hole of student debt. You could have empathized and sympathized with him and instead decided to take the heartless route. The world is cold enough. Kids don't need the same attitude from their parents. The tone of the post also feels like OP doesn't care about her stepson at all, even since she's been in his life since he was 10. She just told him to go get loans. Would be a pretty big slap in the face. I don't get that at all. OP has contributed to her stepson's college fund, though we don't know how much. It's still better than most people who come here. Then her stepson wants to take what OP has contributed to her daughter's fund? Kid needs to get out of the entitlement mode. Life ain't fair, and just because someone has the ability to pay for someone else doesn't mean that they have to. I also didn't read it this way. Blended families are hard and come with weird gray areas. One area that is black and white is whether all the grown-ups involved love the kids who are there. From OP's post, I felt she does love her stepson, but also the finances are just different, and placing more onus on Will, who is not a part of this family dynamic, is unfair. Did you literally say "them's the breaks"? Because I can see how he's taking that as a jerk thing to say. While it's true that not everyone gets equal opportunities and starts out with the same assets in life, saying "them's the breaks" is a dismissive, uncaring way to say it. The message isn't wrong, but the delivery was so bad it obscured the message. So you're the jerk. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her stepson? Please let us know.
Of course the entitled kids on Reddit are gonna side with the entitled kid. Like it or not, them's is the breaks. Deal with it.
Am I the jerk for not allowing my sisters to come spend Christmas with me and my family? I, 29, male, am my parents' only child together. My dad, 55, male, had an affair which resulted in a pregnancy and my mom left him over it. The woman had twin girls, Bella, who's 19, and Amy, who's also 19, and I deeply resented all three of them for many years. With time and therapy, I was able to let go of most of my anger, but I will never be close to Bella and Amy, and just opted to be polite whenever I saw them or their mom. It's a tragic twist of almost laughable karma, and it was revealed that the woman my dad left my mom for wasn't as true to him as she led him to believe, and that Bella and Amy weren't his. It got nasty and they divorced when Bella and Amy were 16. My dad agreed to still be a part of Bella and Amy's lives at the time, and so opted for 50-50 custody. However, after a health scare, Bella decided she wanted to find and reach out to her biological dad. And while my dad wasn't happy about it, Bella soothed his worries when she stated that it would only be for medical purposes, as she had no desire to have him in her life. My dad helped Bella find him, and they had a meeting, and never said anything about it again. Unfortunately, it was revealed that Bella lied and was still seeing her dad in secret, and Amy eventually joined her. My dad wasn't happy about it, and there was an argument, but when Amy brought up how it was their right to see their dad, something in my dad snapped. He got quiet and told the girls that they were right, and when Amy and Bella left to spend their summer with their dad and his family, my dad put the house up for sale, moved all of Amy's and Bella's things to a storage unit, deleted his social media, and changed his number. My dad sent a letter to Bella and Amy to their mom's place explaining what he had done and that they had 30 days before he cut off all financial support, college funds, phones, etc., saying that since their biological dad is so important that he can be their father fully. My dad hasn't spoken to the girls since, and his side of the family is on his side, thinking that Bella and Amy are ungrateful and just as disrespectful as their mom. Bella and Amy have reached out to me to help them see and talk to my dad again, but I don't want to get involved, nor do I even know where to find him. We just call, text, or FaceTime each other. My father finally reached out asking if he could come spend Christmas with me, my wife, our daughter, and my wife's parents, and I agreed. I'm not sure how, but Bella and Amy found out, and told me that they were going to come over too. Not ask, but told. I said no. I know that eventually my dad is going to have a talk with Bella and Amy, but I don't want that drama at my house during my daughter's first Christmas. I told my dad about Bella and Amy, and he said that he had told them everything he needed to in his letter, and he has no desire to talk to them. I told Bella and Amy that they are not welcome, and they, along with their family and friends, are calling me the jerk. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. This is not your circus. These are not your monkeys. You have no biological or familial relationship with Amy or Bella, and you're not obligated to provide the forum for them to have whatever conversation they believe they need to have with your father. Not the jerk. Those aren't your sisters. You are not obligated to let them in your life. Ignore them. Their mother was the first jerk for lying, and then they became jerks for sneaking and lying to your dad. That's his issue to deal with, and if he said he's done, then he's done. Don't get involved, and don't let them in your house. Their mother is the second jerk. None of this would have happened if OP's father didn't choose to have an affair. He's the first jerk. Yeah, the dad is a major jerk. 1, he had an affair, left his first wife. 2, decided to stay in the twins' lives, but gatekeep whether they can have a relationship with their biological dad. 3, disappeared into the night, leaving the girls without the father figure they had their whole lives because they displeased him and cut them off financially with no warning. It's like he's allergic to responsibility. Anyway, OP, not the jerk, but I would really rethink having a relationship with your dad. He seems to make nothing but messes for the people around him. Not the jerk, but let me tell you something. I have a feeling they're going to show up anyway. Is there any way you can change the venue? Not related to judgment. I had to laugh at your dad's karmic justice, but I also will say he's being a jerk to them about it. I get that he's hurt, but they have a right to find their biological dad, and they shouldn't be punished for it. What he did was stone cold. Management says I can't wear scrubs in healthcare. So about 10 years ago, I, 35, male, became a CNA, certified nurse's aide, and worked at an assisted living facility. In many of these types of buildings, corporate does not want the nursing home, so they make their nurses and CNAs wear business casual clothes. The place I was at required us to wear a collared shirt and khakis or black pants. Now, I'm a 6'3" male, on the skinnier side, that's been told my legs are so long I look like I'm walking on stilts. That being said, finding khakis isn't easy, and I usually need to custom order them, which can be pricey. Also, I'd like to note that this building had hard carpet everywhere, and I would end up kneeling down to help tie shoes or do other things while helping out my residents, and ended up blowing out the knees on my khakis often. On the malicious compliance. One day, management says that we were allowed to wear appropriate yoga pants that were either black or khaki, with no reason given. This does nothing to help me and my holy khaki situation, as I was making $12 an hour. Custom ordered pants were very expensive to me. So I decided I was gonna buy black and khaki scrub pants because they're cheaper and more durable. I go on wearing them for about a week without issue when management calls me in and states that the policy is no scrub pants, and I would be written up if I do it again. I try to explain the financial situation that each pair of khakis were costing me most of a day's wage, and the knees would wear out quickly. They respond with, "Tough crap, no scrubs." I then grab the flyer they posted about yoga pants and start to make the case that if yoga pants are allowed, which are much cheaper, I should be able to wear scrubs. Again, they say, "No, it's not the same." At this point, I look down and see the wording on the flyer is, "As a thank you for your hard work, management has decided to allow all nursing staff to wear appropriate yoga pants if they would like. No gender noted, just that they must be black or khaki and not low-cut." Cue the malicious compliance. I go home and tell my girlfriend at the time about this and ask her for a pair of her black yoga pants. Just an FYI, she was barely 5'3", and when I tried them on, they barely went past my knees. The next day, I walked into work proudly sporting the high-water yoga pants with my hairy calves, stilt-like legs, and on the back they had the word "juicy." I made sure to tuck in my shirt so everyone could revel in my glorious bony self. 1 hour into my shift, when management gets there, I instantly get called into the office with my boss and HR. "OP, what are you doing? You are not wearing the correct uniform, and we will need to send you home now." I grab the flyer, and point out that nowhere did they ever say that this was only for women, and they also don't say anything about the length on it. I then say that they are at the appropriate height, put my pants on my hips, do a 180 to show them off, and smile at them looking over my shoulder. Boss: "That's not the point, OP. You know what we meant." HR: "Actually, that is the point. He's right. You did say nursing staff could wear these, and they fit the criteria you put in place." Boss has a wicked scowl on her face, knowing she got beat, but then pauses and laughs. "Okay, fine. You can wear scrubs. Just no more yoga pants. I've already heard the residents talking about your pants more than I'd like. Go home and change, though." For a long time, I got teased by a bunch of the 85-year-old women about when I was gonna be showing off my juicy self again, but at least I got to wear scrubs. Am I the jerk for putting my son's comfort over my girlfriend? I, 34 male, have a 16-year-old son. My son is paralyzed from the waist down and has been since he was 8. A year ago, I got with my girlfriend who's 34. I live in an apartment right now, but it's not the most accessible. For example, the sink in the kitchen and bathroom have cabinets underneath, so he can't really use them without being in an awkward position. Also, the stove is too high for him to use it safely. He can't reach most of the dishes if they were in the higher cabinets. The shower is also really small, and his shower bench barely fits. I've tried to rearrange this to make them easier for him, but it's still hard. 2 days ago, I started getting a house built for us. For most of his childhood, I've struggled financially, but I was finally able to afford to build a house accessible to him. I showed my girlfriend a plan of the house when we first started dating, and she said it looked fine. We went to go see the progress a few days ago, since it's almost done, and we're almost ready to move in. When we got there, she mentioned how the stove and sink were too low. My son can't do much in the kitchen because of his paralysis, but he loves to help. Having the stove accessible will help him have more independence, and he can start learning himself, which he's really happy about. Our stove and sink has a little space under it, so he can slide his wheelchair in to cook, and is low enough so it's like a table, if that makes sense. The oven and microwave are also low enough for him. My girlfriend says it'll be uncomfortable for her to cook at. I told her that she can pull up a chair and sit if that's better, but she refuses. She says she doesn't want to live with me if she's going to be uncomfortable forever. She also says that my son will move out in a few years, so we don't even need to spend all this money on a house. I told her that we could renovate some things after he moves out, but she doesn't want to wait that long. I said if it was a problem, she could figure something else out to make her comfortable or leave. Some people are telling me I was too harsh, but I'm tired of people complaining about accessibility to disabled people because it inconveniences them a little. But I want to know if y'all think I was actually wrong, and should I have handled this differently? Run. Run as fast as you can from this woman and never look back. And for the love of God, don't make a baby with her. Not the jerk. Not the jerk. Your son's ability to use features in his own home is more important than your girlfriend's comfort. Good job on being a great dad on this one. Not the jerk, dude. Your girlfriend needs a reality check. Where does she get the gall to say that your son's accessibility is less important than her inconvenience? Also, what world does she live in where kids will pack up and leave the moment they turn 18? Where exactly are they gonna go with housing and cost of living in general skyrocketing? You're the jerk. As a woman who's been in a similar situation with my ex-fiance, you are totally in the wrong. She's going to be marrying you and spending her life with you at that house. He is your son who will be leaving the nest soon. Men need to put priority on the woman they expect to spend the rest of their lives with. Like, how do you have the gall to expect her to stay with you when you make it obvious she's not a priority? This is what my ex did to me, but it was in regard to his daughter being blind. He focused on it all of the time and treated her like a baby. She was 14 at the time. As a result, I found a real man who makes me a priority, and my loser ex is still single. I saw him at a bar recently, so I made sure to have lots of makeout sessions with my new man just to show X what he's missing out on. I'm pretty sure it worked because he eventually got up and just walked off. Jealous much? You chose your sad life by putting your brat over me. Now deal with it. Hopefully he's getting the therapy he always needed. I swear, the guy was a narcissistic psycho who thought the world revolved around him and his daughter. Karen loses it over the Baby Yoda socks I bought her for Christmas. For Secret Santa, I got Sarah, who put down a bunch of books that she wanted, as well as other things like socks, tea, and candy. I was a little disappointed, to be honest, because I really like to shop for people and give really cool gifts, and these were just a bunch of blah things. When I looked up all the books to get her, I found out that they were all romance novels. I felt kinda cringe buying her romance novels, so I looked at the common themes and found a really good fantasy novel to buy her instead, called Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson. It has a romance in it too. I figure if she likes to read, then she'd be happy to broaden her horizons and branch out. I also got her some Baby Yoda socks to go along with it, because who doesn't like Baby Yoda? And some Bigelow tea that looked good. We did the exchange this morning, and she looked visibly confused when she opened hers. She changed her face to be surprised/happy, but this really bothered me. In the break room later, I heard her talking and complaining that she didn't get why someone got her these things. The other person said they were probably upset they got a woman instead of a man, which I thought was rude. I'm a woman too. I'm just not the pumpkin spice latte and Hallmark kind. Then after, I saw her give the socks to someone else, saying they could have them for their kid. I was honestly really bothered by this. I put thought and effort into a gift. Am I the jerk for getting her something to branch out of the humdrum romance genre and Baby Yoda socks? I thought everyone liked Baby Yoda. Yes, you're the jerk. But you will probably never understand why, so there's not much point in this. Still, I'm going to say it anyway. What the heck is your problem? Why do you feel it's your job to shame people for what they like? She literally put what she wanted on a sheet of paper, but you decided you knew better. Of course she was disappointed. The whole point of putting things you like down when doing these things is so people can receive something they actually want, instead of some dumb stuff that they don't even want. Congratulations on wasting your money and disappointing someone for no reason. Maybe next time stop being condescending and let people enjoy things, or don't participate. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her coworker? Please let us know.
If I hear the words Baby Yoda one more time.
Am I the jerk for not believing my daughter's knee was hurting? I have a 15-year-old daughter, and my husband is currently out of town. I have a lot of projects that need to be done in my yard, and I really needed her help. On Friday, she told me her knee was hurting after her run, and she was limping. I told her, "It's funny how your body always seems to malfunction when I need your help. You can just stay in bed all day if you want," because it's true. She has a history of feigning ailments in order to get out of doing things she doesn't want to do. She hasn't done it much since she was around 9, but I still have trouble trusting her when she says something is wrong. She said she would help me, and I told her we could take her to an emergency room if her knee still hurt by the time the yard work was done. We worked the whole weekend, and she complained a lot, but I was almost certain that she would magically be better by the end of the weekend. This morning though, she said her knee was hurting badly and she could barely walk, so I took her to the emergency room. It turns out she sprained her knee. I had told her to tell them that it only started hurting today, but she said it started hurting Friday, and I was questioned. Fortunately, nothing bad happened, but they said that due to how much she's had to use her knee after it was injured, it will take longer to recover. I decided to keep her home from school today because I don't necessarily want her telling people that I had her doing yard work when she told me her knee hurt. They wouldn't be getting the full story or context, and she has a tendency to exaggerate when I do something wrong. I do feel slightly guilty, but I told her that this wouldn't have gotten to the point it did had she not had this history of lying. She is upset with me. She told me that she was in terrible pain all weekend and that she couldn't believe I didn't trust her. She doesn't seem very interested in talking to me, but I feel like this is partially her fault for creating a situation in which I couldn't trust her. Am I the jerk for not wanting to apologize? You're the jerk 1,000,000%. The full story she'd be telling is that you made a crappy assumption about her, forced her to go an entire weekend without necessary medical care, and that you tried to get her to lie to cover up your negligence. All because when she was a literal kid 6 years ago, she had issues with lying. Yeah, I can see why you don't want that getting out. ETA. Also, you suck for pretending to be so morally outraged at your daughter lying to you in years past, which is, actually pretty developmentally normal for kids to do. But then asking her to lie for you to the doctors. Gross. Clearly you're fine with it when it benefits. My Karen coworker demands I date her loser son. I, 20 female, just started working at a new job a few weeks ago. Everything has been smooth sailing with my coworkers. They're all fun and cool people until yesterday. For a little context before I get into it, My assistant manager, Sherry, who's 45, has a son, Travis, who's 19. When I first started working and I met her, the topic of relationships came up, and she asked if I was single. I told her yes. I got out of a long-term relationship this past July, and I'm thinking about jumping back into the dating pool. She told me her son was around my age, and that we would probably like each other, and asked if I'd be interested. I told her to let me think about it, and I'd get back to her. That was about 6 weeks ago. A couple weeks ago, I decided that going on a couple first dates or outings with new people couldn't be too bad of an idea. So I told Sherry to let Travis know I was interested if he wanted to meet for coffee or something and test the waters, but that I probably wouldn't be free until just after the new year because I'm busy with work and personal and family stuff. She said that sounded fine, and then yesterday happened. Sherry was talking in the back room with two of my other coworkers who are also moms about their kids. At some point, they were making jokes about spoiling their kids, and Sherry said Travis doesn't even make himself a sandwich, just goes into the kitchen and sits there and pouts because he knows mama will come do it for him. I rarely use this term, but I absolutely felt icked out by that. I asked her if she was being serious, and she laughed and said yes, he's just a mama's boy. As we were leaving later, I pulled her aside and told her that I wasn't interested in going out with her son anymore. After she pressed me about why several times, I admitted that the sandwich thing really rubbed me the wrong way and that I would never go out with a man who seemed so dependent or unwilling to do things himself. Sherry got upset and told me I'm not a mom and don't know what I'm talking about, and that surely I expect my parents to still do things for me, and stormed off. I'm getting off my break here in a minute, and she hasn't spoken to me all day, and I'm wondering if I'm in the wrong here. Was I the jerk? Edit. Thank you to everyone so far who has provided their feedback. I just got home from work a few minutes ago, and I've been trying to read through all of the comments and answer any questions or provide any needed clarification. I completely agree with all of you that said I shouldn't have agreed in the first place. That was absolutely my mistake, and I was entirely naive about how things would play out. It seemed totally innocent, and I'm very much used to the older women in my life trying to set me up with their sons. It's not something I've had to confront the past 4 years because I was able to say that I'm taken. But now that I'm single and open to trying to meet new people again, it's not as easy to navigate. I guess I didn't think much of it since I haven't dated anyone new since I was 16, and I still look at these new date situations like I'm 16. Either way, I'm not mixing work with personal like that ever again. I've learned my lesson. Not the jerk. I guess she's sick of making his sandwiches and is hoping you'll take over that role. It was grossly inappropriate of her to make the suggestion in the first place, in my opinion. My only criticism is that you should have said no from the beginning to situations like this. If you had gone on the date and found him lacking, then I'm sure a colleague would have reacted the same way, not well. How dare anyone not love her precious baby boy? Not the jerk. Not the jerk. But the next time, tell the people who want to make you a blind date with a friend or a relative, thanks, but I don't mix work with personal. Or, thanks, but if things don't work out, I don't want to put you in that uncomfortable position. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or Sherry? Please let us know.
Always remember that no is a complete sentence. You're not obligated to explain yourself to these stupid people who try to push you into doing crap you don't want to do. And if you ask them to stop and they keep harassing you, that's what HR is for.
I'll get the manager. Way back in the year 2000, I worked at a big box store with the yellow tag logo. I had been there for 18 months as a cashier. We recently got a new operations manager who came from computer sales and didn't really know the registers that well. This happened during his first week as manager. Me. Okay, sir, that will be this much. Customer. Fine, here. Tosses card onto the counter. Card declined. Me. Sorry, sir, your card declined. I can run it again, or we can try another card if you'd like. Customer. Run it again. I know there's over $1,000 on that card. It should work. I swipe the card again, and it's declined. Me. Sorry, sir, it's been declined again. Customer. It has to work. Is there anything else you can do to approve it? I can try to run it manually, but that will only help if your magnet strip is damaged. Try that then. I manually enter the details, and it's declined. There must be some way to force or bypass that. I know there's money on that card. Me. I'm sorry, sir. If it's declined by the card company, there's nothing I can do. This is BS. I know there's money on that card. Get your manager, now.
Me.
Okay, sir. Just a moment. Manager approaches and stands behind the counter next to me. Manager. Hello, sir. How can I help you? Your employee keeps declining my card, and I know there's plenty of money on it. You need to override it. Manager attempts to run the card, declined again. Manager. Sorry, sir. It was declined. I know that. You need to override it so I can take my stuff and go home. Manager turns 90 degrees to face me. Manager. It declined. Is there anything we can do to override it? Me. No, sir. That decline is from the card company. There's nothing else that we can do. Manager turns 90 degrees back to the angry customer. I'm sorry, sir. I've spoke with one of our experts, and he informs me that there's nothing else we can do with this card. Would you like to sign up for our card and save 10% on your purchases today? Customer angrily stomps out of the store. Am I the jerk for taking an Uber to a wedding so I wouldn't be late? My sister got married last weekend. I flew into town and my parents insisted that I stay with them instead of a hotel like I wanted. My parents are consistently late for everything. I think it's a Latin thing. I hate being late. I think it's disrespectful. The wedding was at 2:30. My folks live about half an hour from the church. Noon rolls up and my folks aren't even getting ready yet. They're adults and I am over dealing with them. I get ready, I send for an Uber, and I'm at the church at 2 o'clock. I check in with my sister. She asks me if I had any problems getting my parents to church. I told her that I came by myself. She blew up on me and said that I was responsible for getting them there on time. Well, nobody asked me to do that. I didn't even want to stay there. So now everyone starts calling my parents. They're getting ready. They were about 35 minutes late. The service was shortened because there was another wedding later that day. Everyone's still mad at me for not getting my parents there on time. My aunt said that I'm a jerk for messing up the timing of the wedding. My mom says it's my fault for not reminding them to get ready. Am I the only one who thinks adults should be able to be on time for their own kid's wedding without help? Not the jerk. If they need to be reminded to get ready for their daughter's wedding, they need live-in caretakers. Unless you were specifically asked to get them to the church, that's not your job. If your sister truly thinks you messed up the wedding by being on time, I think it's a good time for some space between you and your family. Not the jerk. This sounds like a classic missing stairs situation where nobody wants to yell at the problem person directly because that person is never going to change. So they instead yell at everyone else for not managing around the problem person. You now know going forward never to stay with your parents again or be put in a position where you could be seen as responsible for them. This is the kind of thing that's easy to say on the internet and less realistic to do in real life. But I kind of wish your sister had just started the wedding on time and locked your parents' lazy selves out of the church. Am I the jerk for not sharing ownership of my dream car with my boyfriend? I entered my current relationship with a car that I purchased while I was in college. At the time, my boyfriend did not have a driver's license or vehicle of his own. For a year, I pushed him to get his license, offered to teach him in the little banger that I had, even drove him to the DMV and bought the book for his G and M license. He neglected to even open them. After getting tired of paying for repairs on this car, a 2008 Yaris, I decided to go to the dealer and trade it in for a newer car, a 2016 Juke. Again, I offered to teach him how to drive and pushed him to take the test for his G1. After almost a year of owning the new car, he finally went and got the G1, and I started giving him driving lessons. But after a year, I got a job making far more money than I had been, and had also saved multiple years worth of tax returns to be able to put a down payment on the car of my dreams, a 2-door Wrangler for off-roading. My boyfriend is atrocious with money, has been bankrupt in the past, overspent on money to the point of me needing to cover 100% of the bills, often leaving me to make the choice between making a car payment or pay for groceries. We had a plan to purchase him a car with a loan he was approved for, but in his time off, he spent all $15,000 of it. Frustrated, I drove to a Jeep dealer and traded the Juke for a Wrangler, making myself the sole owner of the vehicle, not wanting to have his irresponsibility affect my credit any longer. He blew up, saying that the Juke was his and it was the car he was supposed to learn to drive in. And I was supposed to keep it and keep making payments on it so he could have a car too. Angry, I told him he wasn't allowed to drive the Wrangler, Mostly because he is very neglectful on the road, and I had upgraded to steel front and rear bumpers and didn't want to hurt someone. I made him borrow a friend's accent to learn and get his G2. I feel like the jerk for not including him on the purchase or allowing him to use it when we are in a relationship, but felt my financial responsibility deserved to be rewarded and protected. You need to dump him. He's entitled, completely untrustworthy with money, mooching off of you shamelessly, and too incompetent to drive. Not the jerk, but why are you still with him? Can you seriously see a future with this person? Not the jerk, but girl, sharing ownership of the Wrangler is the least of your problems. To sum up, your boyfriend is unable to accomplish the basics, such as getting his license, unless pushed and prodded and promised to benefit from a free car to drive. Capable of blowing $15,000 on random shopping and generally atrocious with money. Entitled and already seeing your earnings as his car. Completely unconcerned with being a fully supported trophy boyfriend while you pay 100% of his bills. He already went through a bankruptcy and didn't learn anything. Do you want to spell out what the future holds for you? Don't be a jerk to yourself. Honey, why are you out here trying to build a boo? Stop. He is irresponsible, has no drive or ambition, can't motivate himself to do anything, and to top it all off, he's broke. What are you doing? Listen, I can understand supporting your man, but you gotta have something to work with. It's like when you buy a fixer-upper house. You know you gotta put in the work, but you do it because the house has good bones. Now take a step back and look at your man. Does he have good bones? Girl, take your car, take your money, and take your sanity and leave him. My judgment, not the jerk for the car, but you're the jerk if you keep investing in this absolute waste man. Not the jerk. But where are you girls at who will give guys like this a chance? I have a job, my own place, my own car. I've been told I look decent and that I'm funny. But for some reason, every girl I try to go out with just turns me down. They say they just want to be friends or see me as a brother. Meanwhile, you've got losers like this guy who have no problem getting a girlfriend. I just don't get it. Am I the jerk for refusing to pay for my son's dental surgery? I'm divorced from my son's mom, and she took the easy way out on the financial arrangements. Basically, I got stuck paying things that are certain, like our son's private school and extracurricular activities, where she's responsible for their health insurance and medical bills and their nanny. She doesn't pay much for coverage, and our sons don't need medical care. Until now. Our 8-year-old super cute son has a tooth growing from the roof of his mouth, and it needs to be removed quickly. It's not a simple procedure, but he needs to be put under anesthesia, and we have to go to a pediatric oral surgeon. We eventually found a very good pediatric oral surgeon, and it's going to come out to be $3,000. It cost that much because dental insurance doesn't cover much, and an anesthesiologist is expensive. It had to be paid in half for an appointment and half the day of the appointment. My ex asked me if I was going half. I said no. This bill is your problem, not mine. This is what you wanted, remember? You spent the last few years with so little childcare expenses that you got used to it. She went on to say that she doesn't have that kind of cash laying around, and it doesn't make sense to put it on a credit card with interest rates. I told her to go sell blood. I don't care. And yes, I actually budget my money and could pay all of it, and it wouldn't be that big of a deal. She ended up having to take a loan from her credit union to pay for the surgery. Our son was always going to get his surgery, and there was no delay. Edit. Removing the tooth quickly had more to do with trying to get the procedure done before the holidays than medical necessity. Everyone sucks here. Your wife for trying to renege on the agreement, and you for sounding more interested in sticking it to her than your son's welfare. I see the statement that his care was never in question and presume that you would have stepped up and paid if it really had been an issue, so partial credit. But for the sake of your kids, you two need to start acting like co-parents instead of squabbling toddlers. I was this kid once, and believe me, he knows about the squabbling and the fact that his dad said what he did and so on, and it's making him feel bad. Way too upset a kid that has to go through a scary procedure. OP, you're right about the money, but you gotta take a deep breath and lose the vitriol. There's no way it's not affecting your super cute son. Please, don't put him through years of this. Not the jerk for holding your wife to her side of the bargain. When you didn't pick up the slack for her, she found a way to do it herself. That's fine. You do kind of sound like a jerk though, to be honest, just like petty and bitter. You two should probably have a conversation about big, unexpected expenses. $3,000 isn't too bad from what your financial situations sound like, But if it were $30,000 or some other amount, neither of you could have expected to pay a loan without incurring a significant hardship. You should have a plan right now. Not the jerk. Everyone on here saying you are living in a dreamland. If you took their advice, your ex would stick you with everything. The bottom line is she figured it out, and it got done. If you had said he'd never had the surgery, then you would be the jerk. But sticking to your agreement and not wavering just because it's inconvenient for her is not bad. It's life. You're the jerk and behaving like a jerk to boot. Your son needs medical attention and you can help him, and you're refusing to because you hold a grudge against his mother, who you once loved enough to marry and have kids with. It's petty and cruel of you to behave this way. Don't let your bad feelings cloud your better judgment. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his ex? Please let us know. Am I the jerk for asking a friend to split the cost of a meal that he ate a significant portion of? My friend and I went to dinner over the weekend, but still have not settled this issue, so we decided to take it to Reddit to see what you all think. Usually when we go out together, we each only pay for what we order. That way, if someone wants a more expensive dinner or to have a few drinks, the other person isn't stuck paying their bill. Oftentimes when I go out to eat, I will save about half my meal so I can have an easy lunch or dinner the following day. This past weekend, we went to a new restaurant and we were excited to try what the place had to offer. So when my friend asked if he could try some of my meal, I willingly obliged. He then proceeded to eat the majority of what was left on my plate, which was almost half of the entire meal. When the check came, I asked him to contribute some money to my meal since he had eaten such a large portion of it and made it so there was no longer enough to make a meal out of it. He claimed that since we had always agreed to pay for what we ordered, he shouldn't have to pay for extra since he wasn't the one that ordered the meal, and I had willingly let him try it. I then explained that I had expected him to take a bite or two, not eat a meal's worth of food on top of eating his own entire meal. He claimed I should have specified that he could only have a bite or two if that was all that I was willing to share. I understand that we had an agreement to pay for what we ordered, but I think it's kind of a jerk move to eat what was essentially an entire meal of someone else's and then expect them to pay for it. So what do you think, Reddit? Am I the jerk? Edit. Since this has already come up a few times, I wasn't paying attention to how much he was eating off my plate. At this point, he had already finished his entire meal, so I didn't expect him to have enough room to eat another half a meal. On the flip side, he knows that I often split my meals to take home the extra for the next day, and even admitted as much during the conversation about the bill. I also ended up paying for everything I ordered. Edit 2. It should be noted that he admitted to knowing that I intended on bringing leftovers home for later, and that was why he didn't polish it off completely. I had already asked for a to-go box for the food by the time he asked to try it, and we were simply waiting on the box and the bill. Not the jerk. Was a jerk move on his part. Time to accept his judgment and pay for the next meal. Not the jerk. There's a difference between asking, "Can I try some?" versus, "Can I have the rest of that?" I doubt you'll get your money, but I would never let this person try some of my food again. My principal tried to get me fired, so I got her fired from the district. I was in my mid-20s, fresh out of grad school and ready to start my teaching career. I got a job at a Title I elementary school near my home teaching art, and I was super excited that I could walk to work. However, I was so far into La La Land that I didn't notice any of the warning signs. Warning sign number 1. It was a week before school started, and I had called and emailed the school office staff and my principal to ask about getting my keys and a badge so I can start seeing what I needed to do to get ready for the school year. No response and no answer from either. So I called the district office and asked when and where I could pick up my keys and badge. 2 days before school starts, I get an email from my admin that I should have been more patient and not have contacted the main office about my keys and a badge. I finally got everything and was able to get into my room and was horrified with how much I had to get done. Apparently, they had used my room as storage, so it was loaded with tables and desks stacked on top of each other, 8 filing cabinets, and well over 100 chairs stacked all around the room. I managed to clean out the space with help from my awesome custodian. Shout out to all custodians who are the secret backbones in helping teachers get ready for the school year. Hurdle number 1 finished. Warning sign number 2. It's now the day of classes starting, and I haven't been informed of what the schedules are, as in which days I see certain classes and when. So I email my principal again, asking what the schedule looks like and if there is a digital document that I can print out. I get an email back a few minutes later telling me to stop pressuring and bullying her. I replied, Sorry if I was making her feel that way, but it would be nice to know what classes I had and when. This leads to warning sign number 3. It's 8:10 a.m., not 10 minutes after school started, and I finally get my schedule, only to find out that I have 2 classes at the same time. Note, my school isn't huge, but we still had 14 classes serving kinder through 6th graders, so I was having at least 46 kids in one classroom by myself. Moreover, I had 7 45-minute periods a day and saw every class every day of the week, with only a 30-minute lunch. My lunch was when I was on lunch duty. I asked my principal if there was any way we could adjust the schedule so I had time to plan and get the classroom ready for the next class and wouldn't lose instruction time getting things ready as the new class was coming in. I got yelled at by her with a class waiting outside saying it was my first year teaching and I didn't know what I needed and needed to just deal with it. Well, I decided not to just deal with it, and I read the teacher's contract for the district. Come to find out, we had a section about classroom size. It stipulated that if you had a class over 30 students, you get to have an educational assistant to help you with the class. I brought this up with my principal after a month and a half of struggling and was, you guessed it, denied and told that there was no money in the budget and I would have to make do without it or quit. Mind you, I am stubborn and determined to make things work with what little I have. But things were rough. In order to prep and plan everything for the next day, make meaningful grades, keep up with referrals, and keep in contact with families, I was having to be at the school from 6 a.m. when the morning custodian arrived till 9 p.m. when the night janitor was leaving on weekdays, and then also use my weekend time to continue to plan and grade. When it came time for my first teacher evaluation, I was dreading it. However, I got all satisfactory marks from my principal. I was shocked. Little did I know this was a plan she had all along. A few more weeks pass, and I've had it. I talk with our union about the double classes and say it's not sustainable, and a classroom my size can't safely fit more than 30 students, let alone 46 students, and they said they would handle it. And another few weeks go by and nothing. It's now the week of Thanksgiving and conferences are over, and I get to not worry about anything for 2 days. So I decided to go to a potluck dinner with some old friends of mine. So here's the best part, and maybe the part that saved my career and even maybe my sanity. I was talking with an old acquaintance and his new husband about what teaching job I landed and how the school year was going. I let it slip that even though my students were amazing and had such creative minds, it's frustrating to me that I don't have the time to give to them that they deserve. And with 2 classes at once, it's hard to get around to everyone in the class in just 45 minutes. I noticed the husband raise his eyebrow and ask me what school I worked at. So I told him, what harm could it do? Ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between, little did I know I was talking with my principal supervisor. I found out the next Monday when my admin stormed into my room at 8:05 to scream and yell at me, threatening to fire me and make sure I never work in education again. I was shocked and confused at the time. However, later that week at our staff meeting, we talk about a change in the schedule and how only 1 class would be in my class at a time for an hour now, and I would only see them twice a week instead of all 5 days. It was magical. The kids were happier. I was calmed, was able to help each individual student if they needed it, and was able to plan enough throughout the day so I could leave at 4 p.m. Sad to say, my happiness didn't last forever. I noticed my principal stalking my room and coming in non-stop to observe me. It was awkward. I also had a few of my very extroverted students come in quiet and unable to focus on work. But when I asked them if everything was okay, they would burst into tears and say, "I don't want you to go." Being confused, my response was always, "Oh, don't worry, I have absolutely no intentions of going anywhere. You are all the best students a teacher could ever ask for," which would cheer them up for a while, but then they would come in next week, be upset again. It all clicked when the day before we left for Christmas break, my principal came into my room with one of her minions, who was our building union representative, to tell me I was being put on a teacher support plan. This plan was to evaluate whether or not my contract with the district would be up for renewal at the end of the school year. I was shocked, and my union rep just laughed and walked away giggling with our admin. I felt sick and unable to feel any emotion. It wasn't until I got home and read what this plan detailed was I seen red. I had hit my breaking point. This is when I started to formulate a plan of revenge. Some things to note. Our principal liked to come into school whenever they felt like it. She would be anywhere from 7:45 a.m., our actual contract hours, to as late as 9:30 a.m. She once showed up at noon without telling anyone. I also knew that she had kept renewing a certain after-school care contractor that wasn't free to families, but they got money from district to offer it for free. I also knew that this person running the after-school care was dating and living with our principal. So during winter break, my acquaintance and his husband called and asked if I was free to get drinks over the holidays. I love a good cocktail, and I needed one. When we met up, I wanted to talk about anything other than school stuff. I just wanted to keep my mind off of school drama. But the new husband brought up if things were better after he had talked about the double classes. That was when I found out that he was her boss. I asked, "What do you mean? You talked to my principal? How do you know her?" New husband, "Oh, you didn't know? I'm the supervising administrator for that cohort of schools." My jaw dropped and I started to hyperventilate. The husband was startled and asked what was wrong. So I told him. I told him everything. How she yelled and threatened to get me fired. How she put me on this support plan and how she just kept observing my class without notifying me. His face went from a concerned look to surprised Pikachu face to red with anger. He told me, "I really always had a bad vibe from her and always wondered why there were always so many new teachers at that school every year. What else can you tell me about what's going on?" I hesitated to tell him everything, but my acquaintance told me not to worry. He has seen this look before and that he was on my side. So I told him everything. They both just sat there awestruck, unable to speak about what they were hearing. Anyway, after break is over, I'm dreading coming back to my class, but I don't want to miss seeing my students, so I push on. I'm walking in the hall to my mailbox and I see a few of my students that had cried and told me that they didn't want me to leave. They ran up and gave me the biggest, longest hug ever, saying, "You're here, you're here." Me, "Of course I am. I wouldn't leave the best students ever, now would I?" Students, "But principal said that you were going to leave us because you didn't want to be here and we should give you trouble before you left." Me, trying to hold my rage. "Oh, maybe she's talking about how I was leaving to visit family over the break. No need to worry, I'm still here." Yes, y'all, this wretched person tried to purposely make kids misbehave in my class to write me up for not having good rapport with my students. I was beyond livid. So next time I have class with that student, I asked them if they could make a comic book out of the conversation they had with my principal when she told them that I was leaving, and make an ending he wanted. Phase 1 started. Phase 2. I contacted my boss's boss and told him, per my contract, I wanted another admin to accompany my principal's teacher support observations, and I wanted it to be him. He said absolutely, but not to tell my principal just yet. The first day of my observation comes, and she walks in without a notebook or anything to take any sort of notes, looking proud of herself like she's about to get away with firing me. She is shocked and confused when her boss walks in with a laptop and sits next to her and starts typing notes about how I'm doing. She stumbles around and comes to ask me for a notepad to take notes, and I tell her I don't have an extra notepad, but I do have some poster paper. We were making a movie poster of a movie we would star in to go with our comic books, and that I hope you can be better prepared next observation as to not disrupt my class and take time away from their institutional time. Her boss just smirked. Phase 3. I was now calling my new best friend, her boss's boss, whenever she was late getting to school, and he would do a random stop by if he was close. So he was able to document that she was not showing up to work on time and not submitted the paperwork to have it be taken out of her leave minutes. Overall, we get her at least 2 times a week for a solid month. I think he even asked someone from HR to come to our school to see for herself at 9 a.m. and she still wasn't even there. Now time for phase 4, which was my favorite one, getting the parents on board. I first started talking to parents that seemed to always be late picking up their students. I would chat about it and they said it was hard to get there on time and they often had to leave early. And when I told them about our aftercare, they would tell me that it cost too much for them. However, I would inform them that since we are a Title I school, that after-school care was free and paid for by the district, and gave her a nifty flyer I made up with the website to fill out the forms and which ones to fill out. This made word spread around to parents paying the contractors directly that it was supposed to be free. And boy, was that a fun PTA meeting to go to. I also made sure the principal knew it was me that informed the parents about that free after-school care program. After this, there were countless investigations at our school, with head administration from the central office stopping by our school, auditors, and our union finally got involved and tried to play the hero/victims of this incident. The outcome: The second half of the year was very chill. My new best friend made sure that my teacher support plan was taken off my teaching record, and my principal was not allowed to do my second term evaluations, nor was she allowed to do any informal observations. The after-school care contractor was fired and taken over by one recommended by the district, and my students were making amazing strides in their posters and comics. At the end of the year, when we were getting our assignments, jobs for next year, my principal made one last attempt to get me to leave and told me our budget doesn't have the funds for an art teacher next year and that I might want to seek employment elsewhere. I laughed in her face and said, "Nice try. My position is paid for by the state bond and isn't affected by your budget from the district. If there isn't anything else, I'll be leaving now," and walked out. I could hear her slam her desk and start losing it as I closed the door. At the end of the year, I had my one student share his comic book about how the principal told him to give me trouble in class at our school's talent show, leaving the already ticked off parents more ticked that an adult would tell a kid to act in such a way. I even think she had a shoe thrown at her when she ran on stage to stop him from finishing the comic. To the surprise of no one, the last day of school she announced on the intercoms after students had left that she would be resigning from our school to move to a different position where she was needed and that she would miss almost all of us. I came to find out after stalking her on LinkedIn 2 years later that she had to get a job out of the district an hour drive away to get another admin job, but only stayed for a year and then had to step down to teaching English at a different school in another district the next year. And for those of you wondering how my student's comic book ended, well, the art hero rallied the students against the angry principal to make her see the errors of her ways. But the angry principal could not become happy, so she left, and the power of happiness filled the school once again. Finn. Karen X turned my house from a 4-bedroom into a 3-bedroom, so I'm suing her. My ex and I divorced about 15 years ago, and we have shared custody of our daughter. In the divorce, she wanted our house, but I fought hard against it because it's been my family home for 3 generations before I inherited it. In the end, we came to a compromise that was signed off by the judge. Basically, she gets to live in the house rent-free until our daughter turns 18. Then I get it back. I had to pay the utilities, maintenance, and property taxes the entire time. In addition, she can't make any modifications or upgrades to the house without my written permission. She's solely responsible for the cost, and the work has to be performed by an insured and legally licensed professional. I've been sending her move-out notices for months in anticipation of my daughter's 18th birthday, and recently that came to pass. The day after, I showed up to the house with a contractor because I wanted some work done before I moved back in. At first, she refused to let me in until I reminded her that I'm the legal owner of the house. According to our divorce agreement signed by the judge, she's no longer allowed to be there, and I'll call the police if she doesn't let me in. She got the point and opened the door. I was surprised nothing was packed, and it didn't seem like she was moving at all. We were arguing as I walked through and inspected my house. She wanted extra time, and I told her to be out by the end of the week or I'll have her stuff thrown out. When I walked into the living room, I was shocked into silence. The living room was expanded by a wall being torn down and having the bedroom that was once there merged into it. She turned my 4-bedroom house into a 3-bedroom one. I know I didn't sign off on this, and from the looks of it, the work was probably done by her boyfriend and not a professional. I yelled at her and told her I'm going to sue her for everything she has, then I left. She went crying to our daughter and my family, and now everyone is telling me to give her another month to find a place and to not sue her. My daughter is firmly on her mother's side and thinks I'm the jerk for kicking her mother out a couple of weeks before Christmas and suing her. This is why I'm here. I think I'm right, and legally I am right, but my daughter's opinion of me matters to me. Am I the jerk? Edit to answer some questions. 1. My daughter is a freshman in college, and I rent her an apartment near campus where she lives by herself. She has a room in my house, and I assume she will have a room wherever her mother lives. 2. My ex fought for the house and had a chance of winning, even though we had shared custody because I make much more than her. I offered her the compromise, and she took it because her attorney told her it was a good deal and there's an equal chance I could win, which would leave her without a house. 3. My relationship with my daughter is good. She didn't tell me about the renovation because early on I told her I don't want to talk or hear anything about her mother unless it's something that's affecting her, my daughter, negatively. My ex was done to me, and I wanted to spend time with my daughter building new memories. Edit to answer more questions. My daughter is a wonderful girl, and I couldn't ask for a better daughter. She has a big heart and cares about her mother. I've made it a point to never talk about her mother since the divorce, so I'm sure she doesn't fully understand our situation. I plan to talk to her. 2. I inherited the house during our marriage, and since we were still in the honeymoon phase, I placed her name on the deed. After that, I remortgaged the house twice, once to get a better rate and once for money we needed. All of this led to my attorney advising that I compromise. He said there's a real risk of losing the house, so I compromised. I don't know where you live and the worth of your house, but where I live, there's a huge price difference between a 3-bedroom house and a 4-bedroom one. Your ex's actions caused you to lose tens, if not $100,000. Not the jerk, and sue her. She's had 15 years to find an alternative accommodation. You even sent her reminders. And she violated the agreement by having unauthorized work done? Yeah, just no. Kick her out. Not the jerk. Not the jerk. Christmas is a day. She intentionally messed up the value of your house without your permission, against the judge's orders. Sue her. Well, what do you think? Should OP sue his ex or not? Please let us know. My mother stole $160,000 from me. I, 24 female, found out earlier this year that I was supposed to receive around $160,000 in inheritance money when my father passed away. I found out by looking into a cabinet in our house. I was compelled to do so because my mother acts rich or poor whenever it suits her, plus other strange behavior. I found a letter that was addressed specifically to me from the life insurance company that had my inheritance. All I needed to do was submit some paperwork and they'd give me a check. I'm not sure how, but my mother somehow submitted documents for me and even cashed the check that was in my name. I'm also not sure why she felt entitled to it when she got $500,000 in inheritance herself. When I confronted her about it, she obviously did not take it well. She was very adamant that it's her money, until I informed her that, after I found the documents, I called the life insurance company and received photocopies of the check, the submitted documents, etc. After I told her that, she tried negotiating with me, saying that she can give me $10,000 to start with and then $2,000 every month. I said no. I said she will guilt me into delaying her payments if we go that route. She tells me she will be homeless if I get all the money at once. I eventually make her show me her bank statements. As far as I know, she has around $330,000. In addition, she's been making 6 figures with her job for the past 3 years. Homeless? Yeah, right. I told her I need a good amount of money if I want to have any chance of moving out. I wanted to move out with my friend, but my mom took way too long to give me any money. I received $50,000 from her. Like a week or so later, she started asking if she could borrow $20,000 for a month. She said that she needs it in her bank account so that the lender can approve of the condo or house she wants to buy. She asked if I would be okay, and I stupidly told her that I'd be getting grants from school too. She then wanted to borrow $20,000 on top of the grant money by passive-aggressively mentioning it whenever she could. A few weeks later, she forced me to go with her to the bank to withdraw $20,000. This was on October 3rd. On November 23rd, I asked her to give me $2,000. I told her it's been almost 2 months and I want a portion of it back via text. She gives me the silent treatment, in text and in person. The next day, I try calling her. She starts crying hysterically, saying, 1. I knew I shouldn't have trusted you with money. 2. What are you doing? Things you shouldn't be? Are you gambling? Why are you so mean? You ruined my holiday. You've ruined my life. You're abnormal. You're just doing this because you're behind in life and you're desperate. You don't have utilities to pay for. I spent so much money on food the past month. I'm not exaggerating when I say I've never told her to buy me food or make me food, but she always uses it as a form of guilt. A couple of days later, we have a 4-hour argument. During this argument, I was so disgusted with her behavior that I told her I want nothing to do with her. A couple of days after that, to my surprise, she comes into my room and asks me to hug her. She starts crying and says that she just suppresses her thoughts and feelings. She says she'll give me $500 now and then $500 on December 22nd. What? I swallowed my anger for a couple of days, but then I could no longer hold it in. I wasn't giving her the silent treatment, but I wasn't looking at her or initiating any form of talking. She notices this and starts asking what's wrong. She goes, "It's the money, isn't it?" and then repeats the same thing she did last time. Are you gambling? You have no utilities, etc. And again, she made it very clear that she wants to buy a condo or a house. I just can't remember which. I told her I'm mad at her because you told me you needed $20,000 for a month. It's been over 2 months and now you're still not giving it back, so you lied. After this, she started acting like she was about to cry and then she left the house. She then transferred another $500. I haven't talked to her since. It infuriates me that she thinks she's entitled to this money. Why do you need a house? You're getting old and you're single. Secondly, not only was this money only in your account in the first place because you committed fraud, but now I let you borrow money and you're going to treat me like it's an allowance? It's my money legally. Get over it. You already got $500,000 before you took my money. Since I was 18, I've been working minimum wage jobs. She's made it so clear as day that she thinks her needs are way above mine. I don't have utilities. I don't have a career yet, so I'm less important. Even if that's factually true, I'm your kid, and that money is legally mine. Also, I just want to share this example of her behavior that I just remembered. When I was 19, I was working at a tutoring place in addition to a restaurant while taking 16 units in college with no car. I was leaving the house one day to go get a haircut. My mom then asked me, "Where are you going?" I told her I'm going to go get a haircut. She then says, verbatim, "Really? You're supposed to be using that money to help me." That's how entitled she is, like OMG. At this point, she received $660,000, while her kid, who is a full-time student with 2 jobs and no car, is not important enough to use the money they earned from their job to go get a haircut. I'm so mad, and I just have a huge problem with getting this taken care of because I hate making people uncomfortable. This is also why I usually cannot blindside a person by randomly bringing an issue up. I usually have to text them first, but I'm starting to think that that's never a good idea. Ugh. Get an attorney and sue her. She's manipulating you left and right, and she's falsified documents and stole your money. Press charges. Get a lawyer. Mail fraud, insurance fraud, identity theft. Why are you being miserable for her? She's very likely ruining your credit and aspects of your future. You don't owe her anything. You need to stop this before it's too far. Your mother stole $160,000 from you, and you're worried about making her uncomfortable? She obviously wasn't uncomfortable forging your signature to steal the money. She has the money in her account, and you should demand she repay it in full immediately. She's a crappy person for continuing to manipulate you, and so what if she suddenly can't afford something as a direct consequence of her theft? She should be grateful you haven't retained an attorney and come after her or called the police. Am I the jerk for saying I won't come to Christmas at my in-laws if I can't wear a hat? This is a petty little thing, but maybe you guys can help me know if I was in the wrong. For context, I, 25 female, got married in November. My mother-in-law doesn't really like me, even trying to steal the spotlight at my wedding, but is still overly traditional. At Thanksgiving, I was having a really bad hair day, so I wore a black leather cap, a dressier newsboy style one, which my husband said looked great on me. The holiday was hostile, even more so than prior gatherings I'd been to, and hubby said mother-in-law said it was because I wore a hat, but I know that was just an excuse. I told mother-in-law I wouldn't come to Christmas with them, then blocked her number and Facebook. My husband is trying to keep us both happy since he doesn't like conflict. He wants me to come to one more celebration to see if maybe people are getting used to me. He's told mother-in-law she needs to be nice and treat me as part of the family since I am, and that if I feel unwelcome at Christmas like I did at Thanksgiving, that we won't attend future events and she won't see him much anymore. I understand why he wants me to give her one final chance and haven't had any conflict with him. Marriage is about compromise, and I get that he doesn't want to cut her off since she's his mother, but I just don't want to be involved with her unless I have to be. I wanted to see if mother-in-law was listening to him, so I asked my husband to request that I be allowed to wear the same hat to Christmas. Hubby said he thought I'd worn it since I'd had a bad hair day, but this time it's a statement that they shouldn't treat me as an outsider. Either because I wear hats all the time, right now it's just a sports visor, which I never wear to a holiday, so it's not like I'm doing that, or they just don't like me. If they won't let me wear a hat, what else are they going to restrict about me? Let me be me or I won't come over, period. My husband agreed and relayed this to mother-in-law, and she's been asking him why he married the devil. He's growing tense with me and I told him he'll probably have to pick a side sooner or later and that I never intended it that way. He spent last night at a friend's house because he needed to think. I feel bad because I care about him and know conflict stresses him out. I told him to text me when he was ready to talk. He hasn't yet. My friends think that my hat request was unnecessary and maybe I strained my relationship with my husband. I think he just needed space to think because conflict stresses him out. So I gotta ask, am I the jerk for saying I won't come if I can't wear a hat? Update. My husband just texted me saying he just got off the phone with his mother. He told her off for calling me the devil and said that if I can't wear a hat, he's not coming either, and that she really should get over her antiquated BS. She did not respond well. I don't think we're going to Christmas there now, so maybe we'll have a Friendsmas. I don't know. We'll think of something. Everyone sucks here. You took a situation that could have been a first step towards a less contentious relationship with your mother-in-law and made demands which intentionally antagonized her. Of course, you should be able to wear whatever you want, and your mother-in-law is being insane in this situation. But do you want to be right, or do you want peace in your family? You're the jerk. You're literally trying to bait mother-in-law. It's like you want a reaction from her. It's generally considered rude to be wearing a hat indoors or while dining. And bad hair day? It's a family get-together. Seems pretty immature to even be thinking about that. I'd expect it from a teenager maybe, but an adult? You're putting your husband in a crappy situation. What? People are allowed to be self-conscious about their appearance at any age, especially during the holidays when many people they don't typically see will be there and many photos are taken. ETA, y'all coming after me for things unrelated to my comment are annoying. I think OP is petty, but saying grown people aren't allowed to care about their appearance is not like other girls to the max. Rude to wear a hat indoors? Is it still 1950? I disagree about the hat thing. Only old people care about that. The idea that wearing a hat indoors or while eating is rude, at least in the US, has been gone for decades. You're the jerk. Now it just sounds like you're trying to mess with her. Also, a lot of people do consider it rude to wear a hat in your home. Grow up. Wearing a hat inside doesn't make you a jerk. Treating someone like they don't belong because of a hat does, though. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her mother-in-law? Please let us know.
When you're a guest in someone's home for the holiday, how hard is it to just honor their simple request of removing a hat? My age may be showing here, but I'm just glad that I was taught to show respect to my elders when I was growing up.
Am I the jerk if I tell my guests, family, that I need to be reimbursed for buying, preparing, and cooking Christmas dinner? I'm 21 and have a really close family. We always had Christmas at my grandma's house, but she passed last January, and so there was a lot of discussion as to who would do the dinner. My opinion was it would be best to have one of the younger people do it. That way we can have a long-standing tradition that lasts years. There was some arguing back and forth between me and my aunt, but finally she said, fine. I was kind of thinking my 29-year-old cousin would step up since she has a really nice house and a kitchen, but then she said she would be going to Germany this year. Finally, after a month of no one volunteering, my mom said I had really upset my aunt and I needed to do Christmas this year since I was so adamant about a young person doing it. I was not going to be proved wrong, so I said I would. So a couple of things. I'm a good cook, so I'm not worried about that part, but it's way more expensive than I thought it would be, especially with inflation. I also realized that my apartment is way too small, so I rented a really nice Airbnb for the day. And I had to buy all new dishes, cookware, servingware, table spread, etc. This is going to cost me about $4,500, and that's going on my credit card.
A 21-year-old putting $4,500 on their credit card to host a Christmas dinner for their family. Only on Reddit.
So we're having between 20 and 25 people, and I don't think it's unreasonable to ask them to pay between $250 and $300 each, so I'm not financially ruined by this. I'm a first-year teacher, and I can't afford that. When I told my mom about this idea, she said, "Don't you dare even consider it." Her argument was it was my idea, and I even argued with my aunt. All my grandma's stuff packed up, and it's in great shape. I didn't need to get a whole new spread from Pottery Barn, and why didn't I just ask someone else to host? And I could cook, and that my grandma never once asked for anything in return, so this could splinter the family. She said, "Admit, you bit off more than you could chew. Take everything back. Cancel the Airbnb and ask for help with hosting and cooking. I said no, I could do it, but I needed money. She said I was embarrassing the heck out of her and she may not come. My own mom threatening to not come to my Christmas is making me feel like a jerk. Am I, or would I be? Edit. Thank you for the input. I will be calling my aunt and trying to work this out, and I will return all of the stuff I can and cancel the Airbnb. Edit 2. This has blown up more than I could ever anticipate. I'll post this and try to read through comments. I talked to my aunt, and she said that she's happy to host and says I can help her with the cooking. She said we need to put on a good face for Christmas, but after the holiday, we need to clear the air because I guess I really hurt her feelings. I've put in a request to cancel the Airbnb, and we'll start returning things to Pottery Barn and Williams-Sonoma. Although it's going to make me very sad because it's such pretty stuff. Thank you for reading. You're the jerk. Every single cost that you listed was a choice you made of your own volition. You're the jerk. Hosting a party does not mean charging your guests hundreds of dollars. Your mother is right that you do not need to buy a new spread, rent an Airbnb, etc. Perhaps you now realize the reason why family holidays are generally hosted by more established members of the family. They tend to have bigger homes for hosting, china sets, and the cash to buy a large meal. Time to swallow your pride and apologize. You're the jerk. You messed around and found out. This is all on you, and you'd be absolutely ridiculous to ask your family members for money to host Christmas. Hosting is hard, exhausting, and expensive. Never take it for granted again, and be a stellar guest going forward. Am I the jerk for refusing to give up my dog for my dad's fiancée and her son? I'm really upset about this right now. I'm 17, female. My parents divorced when I was 12. It was really rough. They pretty much hate each other and still have trouble doing anything together where I'm concerned. I try not to talk about them to each other and just keep things separate. All the fighting and chaos was hard on me and was affecting my mood and schoolwork when it was all going down, so my dad felt bad and let me have a dog to help me feel better. Someone nearby had Malamute puppies, so I picked one up, and his name is Tycho, and he's my best friend. Even on the weeks I'm with my mom, I stop by after school every day to take him to the dog park to play and get his cuddles in. I love this dog. My dad started dating Melanie a few years ago. I don't really connect with her. We're really just different and she's way too touchy, but she makes my dad happy, so whatever. Her son, Ben, who's 9, is autistic and needs a lot of accommodations. He gets really upset and has meltdowns when things change or are done differently. He's also really scared of Tycho, even though as far as I know, Tycho has never done anything to scare him. He's a really laid-back and well-behaved dog. Dad and Melanie recently got engaged, and they want to go ahead and move her and Ben in so that they can get rid of their apartment and save money. My dad told me about it and said that since Ben is afraid of Tycho and needs a stable environment at home, Tycho is going to have to go somewhere else. My mom's townhouse doesn't have room for him, and my grandparents aren't in good enough health to look after a big dog, so we would have to rehome him. I admit I didn't take it very well, and we had a big fight. I told him that no way was I going to give up my dog, and I'm going to college next year anyway, so they can put off the move until the spring when I can find a place to take him with me. My dad says they need to do the move over the holidays, and Ben is more important than a dog. I told him if he gives away my dog, I'll never forgive him, and that he obviously thinks Ben is more important than me too. My dad is mad because I'm making this a choice between me and his fiancée basically. Melanie is having second thoughts about the engagement since I don't want to live with them. My mom is mad at my dad and they're fighting again, and I'm afraid to leave Tycho alone because he might not be there when I get back. My aunt says I'm being childish and my dad deserves to be happy. Am I the jerk? Edit. I talked to my mom and grandparents after school. I brought Tycho to my mom's place this afternoon, and I'm going to take him to my grandparents tomorrow. I'm going to split time between them and my mom for a while, and my grandparents said that if I go to college nearby, I can live with them while I study to make sure I don't lose my dog. So I'm going to look at maybe doing 2 years at a local college and then transferring to a university later. I haven't told my dad yet, but I will after I get Tycho settled tomorrow. I already went online and made sure his chip information is up to date with all my info and my mom's as a backup. I'd do almost anything to not lose my dog, including just not going to college right now if that's what I have to do. He takes care of me, so I have to take care of him. Not the jerk. Your dad shouldn't have given you a dog to take it away later. However, you also need to be prepared. It isn't easy to find a place to take a large dog. If your plan is to bring him with you, you need to be working and saving money. You will likely need to rent a house or a room in a house where they let you have him, and you'll have vet bills to cover, food, etc. Not the jerk. I usually side with parents, but rehoming your dog because he can't wait 6 months to move his girlfriend into the house seems like he is choosing his girlfriend over his kid, and that's a huge no-no. Melanie's son does have a right to feel safe in his own home, but that does not include forcing you to get rid of your dog. That's just not a legitimate thought to have. Maybe Melanie should have second thoughts about your dad. Not the jerk. Make it perfectly clear to your dad that if he wants any relationship with you going forward, they need to find a way to make you keeping your dog work. If he unilaterally makes the decision about your dog, do what you can to track it and the home it's in so that you can get him back when you move out. Then go no contact with your dad. He neither loves nor cares about you, so he doesn't deserve to have you in his life. This is the best advice. Let him know ahead of time that you will never speak to him again if he gives your dog away, and then follow through. I have a friend around my age, 50s, whose stepmother gave away her dog. She has not spoken to her father since that day, and she does not regret it. Am I the jerk for not wanting my friend's little sister to crash our Dungeons & Dragons campaign? I, male 22, have a tight friendship group with R, L, and V, all male 22. We met at our local Dungeons & Dragons club and have been hanging out for years. We've been doing this great campaign for about a month now, and we'd been planning to have our campaign finale with themed snacks, drinks, and decorations in V's apartment. He has the biggest because he shares it with his girlfriend. V also lives with his little sister, A, who's 11, after his mom passed a few years ago. The plan had been for his girlfriend to look after A at her parents' place, but the day of, he messages us saying that she can't babysit anymore because her mom fell on some ice and was in the hospital. He offered that we could either rearrange or could do it with A there. She'd just play video games in the background. Immediately, L and R say they don't have an issue with her being there, and we could even make her her own character for the campaign. I couldn't understand this though. It was meant to be just us, and putting in a random new character in the finale would ruin it. Plus, A is super clingy to V, so I knew it would take his attention off the campaign if she was there. I asked V if he couldn't find an alternative babysitter before the evening so we could still do this as planned. He said he didn't want to put A with someone she didn't know so last minute for something easily rearrangeable because he knew it would upset her. I got annoyed then at him calling our event rearrangeable and called him out on it. He said I had to be joking if I thought a Dungeons & Dragons campaign was more important to him than his little sister's comfort. I said I absolutely wasn't saying that, but I wasn't prepared to have our night turned into free babysitting. V said he had already offered to rearrange and that I was free to host myself sometime if I had such a problem with his sister. This was uncalled for because he knows I can't host because I don't have the time or space to prepare or clean them up. L and R both privately messaged me and basically said I was the only one who cared and that we should be sympathetic to V's situation. I have a lot of respect for V, but I still don't see why he couldn't have just put A with a babysitter for an evening so our plans didn't get ruined, or why his girlfriend couldn't take her to the hospital too. How is not wanting some random kid at our game night an issue? They ended up hanging out that night. I was invited, but I didn't go, and doing a one-shot campaign, which also annoyed me because we always play Dungeons & Dragons together. My mom thinks I was a jerk because V is raising a kid by himself, but he has money from his inheritance and gets help from girlfriend's family, so he isn't alone. My brothers agree that I'm not the jerk here because V shouldn't baby A so much that he won't even put her with a babysitter. I want some reassurance on this, so I've come here. Am I the jerk? Edit. Okay, I see overwhelmingly I'm being voted the jerk. I'm gonna take some time away from Reddit now because I've started getting threats to think about what happened and then try to talk to V. I definitely don't think I'd been appreciating his role of being that of a parent, not just an older brother, and I need to say sorry. I struggled to make friends in school, and Dungeons & Dragons was one of those ways I made friends, but I think I've been too focused on the game itself rather than the good friends I've been playing with. Hopefully I can mend this with everyone. I was afraid of the change, but ended up making it worse. Once I've thought about what I'm going to say, I'll talk to him and update you. Also, just to add for those confused, 1. My issue was never her joining us or being there. It was really that everyone seemed to reach a consensus on changing the whole plan so last minute. I should have just asked to reschedule. I let my excitement for the event get the better of me and was desperate for it to go ahead as planned. 2. This was the finale of the first arc, which I should have specified. I was attached to it so much after only a month because it's been our best yet, and I was afraid of it being ruined or changing. But, like people have said, the whole point of Dungeons & Dragons is change, and no good campaign is made by refusing to accept that. This is happening in her own home? If anyone is crashing by being there, it's you. You're the jerk. Wow, I haven't seen something this entitled in here all week. Yeah, you're the jerk and a big one. First, it's not free babysitting. She lives there in the place you'd be going to visit. Get that part straight. Second, bringing her to the hospital? Really? That was actually one of your solutions? You really need to get over yourself. Look at you throwing a temper tantrum over this and getting mad that they had a one-shot D&D night without you, since you couldn't handle having an 11-year-old around. Goodness. Try role-playing as a caring and understandable friend, and you can easily come to the same conclusion as they did, and the rest of us here on Reddit have. You're the jerk. My girlfriend is demanding I buy her a 6-figure car. I, 24 male, am dating a woman who's 26 and will refer to her as A. For some context, I drive a 2019 Nissan GTR. It was my dream car growing up, and I told myself when I made it and made enough to afford it financially and not have it be everything in my bank account. I work a job making close to 6 figures, and I've learned to invest in stocks and crypto. I've made some good money, but of course, stocks and crypto are never promised and could crumble tomorrow. My girlfriend drives a 2018 BMW M3, and it's a very nice car in good condition with no issues under the hood. The other day, she suggested I should order her a new Tesla for Christmas. The one she wanted before I put work into my car was more than my car had cost. Of course, I'm not saying I don't or won't spend money on her, but she drives a very nice car that I paid for. She pays the insurance and the maintenance and upkeep. That is still a luxury car that drives well. I argued with her that I wasn't going to drop 6 figures on a car when I'm looking at buying us a house. Yes, even though we're under the dating title, we have extremely strong love for each other. Crap, she has my name tatted on her. Not my idea. And while I love her and I'm always buying her what I think she'd like or tells me that she likes as gifts, I just really think it's financially irresponsible to buy a new car for no reason. She tried insinuating I was being cheap because I spent more money on my car than I did hers, and my car has work done on it. She tried accusing me of not loving her and only giving a hoot about myself. I genuinely don't think I'm the jerk for spending my money that I work for on whatever I'd like. Yes, she works a job that she finds ideal and went to school for and enjoys, and I'm not pocket watching her. Am I the jerk for refusing to buy her a new car? Edit. Just to clarify, when I do math, I automatically factor in taxes because I don't consider it my money. Or when I spend on something, it's not whatever the sticker price is, it's with taxes and fees included in my brain. What I should have specified is that I pull in close to 6 figures after taxes. My apologies for any miscommunications on my end. Edit 2. Some comments were suggesting I show her this thread. While I thought I was in the wrong, I didn't think I'd get an overwhelming amount of people pretty much in agreement with each other that her actions are like a gold digger. I don't know if it will make her more offended or be the reality check that she needs. Karen divorces me and marries her boss. Huge mistake. I, 47, got divorced from my first wife when I was 29. We had 2 kids and my folks loved them more than anything. My ex-wife wasn't happy with the lifestyle that I could provide. I wasn't making a lot of money, but we weren't in debt or anything. We had good cars, and we had just put a down payment on our first home that we could own. Her boss was rich. He was 47, and he could provide luxuries that were out of my reach. She left me for him. I still had to pay child support, but I guess I was lucky that I didn't pay spousal support. I had to work, and I couldn't get custody. I got visitation, and my ex made it hard. The kids were young, and she manipulated them. If I had planned to take them to a local resort for our summer vacation, she would take them to Disneyland the week before. I would always come up short. Eventually, the kids refused to spend time with me. It went to court, and I basically had to accept that I couldn't force them to see me or my parents. I met my second wife, who's 33, at the dog park when I was 37 and she was 24. She had a son who was about the age my son was the last time my parents got to see him. My parents accepted him right away. He loves them. My wife is like a daughter to them. It is what I always wanted for a life. We have 2 more kids now who are 8 and 5. My stepson is about to graduate next year. So a few years ago, my dad sold his company. He's an engineer and he had some patents that ended up being worth a fair bit of money. He paid off my house. He also made educational funds for my 3 kids. He figured the older ones were done with school and hadn't bothered to visit them in years, so they didn't need anything from him. Turns out that was wrong. My ex-wife married a scam artist. He was rich, but he wasn't rich enough for the lifestyle she wanted, so he stole from his clients, and then he went to jail. My oldest kids are in a lot of debt. My ex is living with her parents. She recently tried to tell me that my parents needed to be fair with all their grandkids. I told her that it was their money to spend on the people they loved and who loved them back. She said that we were punishing her kids for her mistakes. I said that both of our kids were adults and hadn't made any effort to see me or my parents in over a decade. She said I'm being a jerk for not convincing my parents to help her kids. It feels like there's a lot missing from this story. You really make yourself out to be a martyr, OP, but fathers don't just get visitation only for no reason, and kids don't just go no contact for a decade because you couldn't afford Disneyland. You then married someone 13 years younger than yourself, which in this context just feels off. So, I don't know, dude. It sounds like either you and your family need to start treating your kids better, or you've lost them forever. Someone needs to be the adult here, but it seems like none of you are willing. OP. Okay, so I went through the comments and yours stuck out. I'll do my best to be honest here. I was not a perfect father. I don't think that anyone ever has been. I made mistakes, but I did try my absolute best. The best example I can give is that I took all of my time off when the kids weren't in school. I tried to make sure that we had quality time together. I didn't see them much when I was working. Their mom did the heavy lifting when it came to parenting. I gave each of my kids the full amount that I had saved for them for college. Their stepdad bought them each a car. I cannot afford to compete with that. Well, I can now, but I couldn't back then. The money I sent them was enough to cover 1.5 years of in-state tuition. The reason I use Disneyland as an example is because it seemed to me like once she found out my vacation time and plans, she then took the kids for a very expensive vacation to a place I would have had trouble affording. When I took them the following week, they were all vacationed out and just relaxed. I had planned for us to enjoy some time outdoors. I was disappointed, but I let them stay in the hotel and just play video games and read. I guess it was a boring vacation because they told me that they didn't want to go there again. They had enjoyed it there before. My wife was 24 when we met and had a kid. She wasn't a teenager or anything, and we got pregnant because we wanted to. I loved having a child in my life again, and we wanted more kids. My wife was willing to accept the hours that I work, and because I have more experience now and seniority, I make more money than I did during my first marriage. You keep mentioning how much money you make, but I just don't see how that factors into your story in any way. Kids grow up with poor fathers all the time and don't go no contact with them for a decade over it. Having less money than their mother doesn't mean that you only get visitation. I'm sure there were times where you worked to be a good father, but I guarantee you that if we asked your kids, they would be able to shed some light on what really happened in their childhood to have it all end up like this. And my earlier point was that it was your job and will always be your job to maintain contact with your kids, unless they explicitly don't want it, in which case you did something very bad. Even though they're older now, it's still your job to do anything you can to maintain a relationship with them if they want it. Sometimes kids pull back when they feel abandoned to see if that parent will fight for them. Kids need to know that their parents will fight for them. If you didn't fight for them, you just let them go no contact, then their worst fears are realized and you become an absolute deadbeat. In which case, your question should be, I was a deadbeat father to 2 kids I had with my ex, and now my parents won't help financially support them, even though we could, and yet we're supporting the 2 kids I had with my new young wife. Are we the jerks? To be clear, I'm not calling you a jerk, because like I said, we just clearly don't know the whole story. Not the jerk, but I'm always suspicious when a guy says the woman manipulated the kids. Kids don't stop talking to you because you don't buy them stuff and take them to expensive places, especially all the way into their adulthood. It's usually because you were a deadbeat and broke promises and weren't around a lot for them to create a bond. This is rarely the mother's fault, as most will happily want to break for a few days. Think you need to find the real reasons they don't talk to you. Well, what do you think? Are OP and his parents the jerks or not? Please let us know.
If I had grandkids that went 10 years without wanting anything to do with me, you can bet your backside I wouldn't be leaving them a darn thing.
Am I the jerk for telling my friend his physical standards are why he's single? I, 22 male, have a friend who's also 22 male who has never even had a girlfriend or a romantic experience. Now, let me say that I actually really like him as a person, and I think he has positive qualities. He has a solid job making $180,000 a year with a company car as a surgical device sales rep at 22. He's generally affable and easy to talk to. If his standards were just educated and good person, I would totally support it, as I think that's reasonable. However, physically, and I know I'm being brutal here, he is not a catch. He already has a significantly receded hairline. His face is quite frankly below average. He's of below average height and he's not in amazing shape. I believe he has a distorted view because his parents constantly told him he was very handsome and could get any girl. As a result, he's exclusively interested in women who are not just successful, but also are exceptionally gorgeous. A woman who said she had just graduated from an Ivy League and was a tech sales rep was flirting with him at the bar. Though she was nice and clearly quite intelligent, and once again, I know that I'm being brutal here, she was not very attractive either. When she asked for his number, he politely declined. I asked him what was wrong, and he said, "I mean, she seems like a nice person, but she's definitely not in my league." I bit my tongue. The next week, he came to me upset and told me that a woman that he had a cooking class with rejected him. Suspecting the reason why, I asked him to show me a picture of her from her social media. Sure enough, she was insanely attractive and in marketing at a big company. I just tried to sympathize. Later, I thought long and hard about it. On the one hand, I didn't want to be mean, but on the other, this has been occurring since freshman year of high school. He's now the last person in the friend group to be single and completely missed out on dating in high school and college. Say what you will, but I think that romance is important for the vast majority of people, and I also think physical attraction is a foundational aspect of relationships. He could easily be in a relationship if he got over his obsession with beauty. So after rehearsing what I wanted to say, I decided to sit him down and I told him, "I'm going to be honest with you, man. I think you should lower your physical standards. You would have way more options." He protested and said that his standards were reasonable because he's a good-looking guy. I said, "I hate to say it, but your approach of only going after beautiful and successful women has not worked out. Feel free to take your shot, but I think you should also consider women that are nice and smart but less physically attractive." I recommended he go to therapy about this. He got angry and has been giving me the cold shoulder ever since. 8 days. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. It sounds like you approached this mindfully and with good intentions. Unfortunately, a guy like this doesn't sound open to reflection about himself. These opinions tend to solidify with time, resulting in a "they're the ones with the problem" mindset. He will either learn in time or he won't. While clearly not the jerk, I also think that conversation was unnecessary and obviously not going to pan out well. For it not even to occur to this dude that the reason he routinely turns down women because he isn't interested in them could possibly be the reason he's being rejected because they're not interested in him is ridiculous. But ultimately, it only affects him, and all OP did was basically sit him down and tell him he thinks he's not good looking. Which, like, dude, how did you think that was gonna go? If he kept coming to me complaining about, "Why did she reject me?" I'd be like, "I don't know, why do you reject people who ask you out?" And if he says some garbage about her being a jerk, just be like, "Whatever, dude. She's allowed to not like you, and that doesn't make her a jerk. Just like you're allowed to not date people you don't want to, and it doesn't make you a jerk." From a woman's perspective, please let him be. We don't want someone going out with us because they feel like the people they're really attracted to won't want to date them. We don't want to be settled for. Let him continue to spin his wheels and make his choices. Don't encourage him to subject women to the inevitable unpleasantness and degradation of going out with a man who would rather be with someone else, just so he can have experiences with someone because it's about time. He's 22. You keep saying 8 years like it's insane. Lots of people don't experience real dating until later in life, especially in the last 5 years or so. He has plenty of time for his own lived experience of unsuccessful attempts at dating to give him that reality check. He doesn't need you to do it. Not the jerk. Honestly, you've risked looking like the bad guy to genuinely help your friend because you want him to be happy, and you spent time and energy thinking how to do that in a way that wouldn't hurt his feelings. You didn't call him unattractive or say they were out of his league. You just said it wasn't working out and he should maybe try something new. Not the jerk, but neither is your friend. He's just still oblivious to how dating works. I'm a dating coach, and I can tell you without a doubt that your friend is most likely a 7 going after other 7s. The problem is, he needs to be going after 4s and 5s if he wants to score. The 7s he's going after will never give him a chance because they only accept the 9s and 10s. As a solid 9 myself, 6'3", blonde hair, blue eyes, gym rat, I can't tell you how many women I've been with who would show me pictures of guys that orbited them and we'd laugh at them together. She'd tell me how funny it was that these dudes thought they had a chance with her, and I'd be thinking in my head, well, he's about a 7 just like you. But you never actually tell her this stuff. They're so conceited that they will refuse to believe it and will totally flip out on you. It's just the current imbalance in the dating game, but don't get mad about it. Learn to play the game. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his friend? Please let us know.
As a 10 myself, I ask myself every day why I'm with a 1 like Reddit boy.
My sister started crying when she found out how much money I make. Tonight, my fiancé, 26 male, and I, 26 female, were at dinner with his family. He has a younger brother, 18 male, and an older sister, 29 female, who I will refer to as my sister-in-law just because it's simple. I've been working as a product manager at a big tech company since I got out of college 5 years ago. My salary has steadily climbed in the last couple of years, so now I'm making a very large amount. However, I am a big proponent of salary transparency, especially as a woman in a male-dominated field. I've helped multiple people who are being underpaid negotiate higher salaries after sharing my salary history. I've also helped many younger college students who are looking to go into the industry by sharing my salary. So this evening, we were discussing the tech industry and how it's become such a popular field to go into. Both me and my fiancé work in tech, so we were offering our input from our own roles. My fiancé's little brother is planning on studying computer science in college, so he asked me, rather abruptly, how much I make as a PM. Since I believe in salary transparency, I went ahead and just said, well, after I got promoted to being a senior product manager a few months ago, my current salary is about $300,000 a year. After I said that, my fiancé's brother said, holy cow, really loudly, and then congratulated me and called me impressive. I thanked him and told him that I'd be happy to help him when he starts looking for internships and jobs in college. However, then all of a sudden, my sister-in-law starts sniffling, and I look at her and she's wiping tears from her face. My future mother-in-law starts to comfort her and is whispering something, and the whole table goes silent. I immediately apologized and asked what was wrong, and she just said, it's just hard seeing people make that much money when I'm making $15 an hour working my butt off 50 hours a week. She also said after that, some people really do get everything, huh? And then glared at me and kept crying. Then she excused herself to the bathroom and my mother-in-law followed. Here's my sister-in-law's situation. She's currently a single mom and is pregnant with her second son. She's working a minimum wage job to support her kid. I'm very empathetic to her situation, and my fiancé and I have extended a helping hand multiple times, such as babysitting, buying her kid toys or other gifts or necessities, sending money and supplies, etc. Since the incident, she hasn't spoken to me. She actually ended up just walking out from dinner with my future mother-in-law and leaving the rest of us at the restaurant. My mother-in-law did text and told me that I acted insensitively and should give sister-in-law a sincere apology. My fiancé is on my side and believes his sister was the one who acted rudely. See, I would apologize, but I think she owes me an apology too. Am I the jerk here? No jerks here, except for mother-in-law. You shared and, let's be honest, you make a ridiculous amount for 5 years of work experience. But you're right to support wage transparency. It was your choice to work in this field, and I'm sure you've earned the promotions, etc. But it must be disheartening for her to know that she won't earn that there'll always be a difference between her and her siblings' families, and that she won't be able to give her kids a lot. Maybe not even the basics, with how it stands now. So she's no jerk either for how she reacted or felt. The only jerk move here is your mother-in-law accusing you of willful insensitivity, while it clearly wasn't. Have a conversation with your sister-in-law. Not the jerk at all. Your sister-in-law is completely the jerk for making the entire night about her and victimizing herself over something that has nothing at all to do with her. You worked hard in life to get to where you are, and you earn what you make. She chose to have kids before she had a stable career and marriage. She cannot possibly expect everyone around her to coddle her for that. Not to mention, you were literally asked, and being honest about what you earn is something you're passionate about. Unbelievable your mother-in-law is babying her like that. It's appalling that a grown woman would make a scene over what is essentially jealousy and feeling sorry for herself. Good on your fiancé for being on your side. Everyone sucks here. Salary transparency is for peers, employees, and applicants freely disclosing compensation in the workplace. Telling everyone who asks how much you earn at the dinner table during family functions is weird. Brother-in-law is 18 and not even studying computer science yet. You were definitely bragging and impressed him. Good for you, but bad manners nonetheless. Sister-in-law needs to get a grip. Mother-in-law should encourage sister-in-law to get a grip. And in order to make it easier for them, you should say you're sorry for unintentionally hurting sister-in-law's feelings. Practice not sounding smug so you don't make it worse. You're the jerk. Here's the thing. Salary transparency is great for women because women traditionally lack the confidence to request the promotions and higher salaries that their male counterparts request. So I applaud your transparency. However, be mindful of your audience. Salary transparency is appropriate when you're talking with industry or potential industry or students, etc. It's inappropriate in front of others, especially family. Causes problems of jealousy, insecurity, judgment, etc. This time your sister-in-law cried. The next person will expect you to pay for them. The person after that will befriend you for your money or steal from you, etc. You should have told little bro that you would be happy to give him career counseling away from the table and then shared your salary in private. If you really want to help women, apologize to your sister-in-law and ask if there's any way that you could support her to change jobs. Read through her resume, point her towards some study, get her an entry-level position with your company, etc. Whatever she needs. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or sister-in-law? Please let us know.
Never tell anyone how much money you make, especially people you're related to.
Am I the jerk for requesting that my wife cleans up after herself? I, 28 male, married my wife, 23 female, who we'll call Danny, about a year ago, and we were very lucky to get pregnant soon after. Danny is in her 3rd trimester now and on pregnancy leave. Once we got the good news, I started working extra hours in order to save more money for when the baby gets here. This means that I have to get up extra early every morning to get to work. I try to be out the door by 6 a.m. I get home a little later and I'm usually pretty beat, but I still contribute to the house by doing dishes, cleaning up after the cat, cause she can't, that kind of stuff. This new routine has been hard on both of us, but we've made it work and so far everything has been fine. That is, until the other day when I woke up to Danny crying. We only have one bathroom, which is downstairs, and lately Danny has been having a little more trouble going up and down the stairs. This usually went fine, but this time she didn't make it. So when I came downstairs, I found her, in tears, standing in her own mess. She was clearly very embarrassed, and even more so that I had caught her. I immediately felt bad for her. I tried to comfort her and told her that it's all good. It can happen to anyone. Just clean it up and we'll go back to bed. She asked me if I could help her, but I told her that made me uncomfortable. I would never expect anyone else to clean up after my mess. To be honest, it has happened before when I had a couple too many beers, but I always clean up after myself, and I would feel weird asking Danny to do it for me in that situation. She got really mad and called me insensitive for making her clean up after herself after an already embarrassing enough situation. I proposed a compromise. She would clean up the mess, and I would get her clean PJs, since I had just done laundry anyway. She asked me if this is what it was going to be like if the baby made a mess, and I told her I would be perfectly okay to clean up after the baby, since it can't clean up after itself. I then told her I didn't have time to stand there arguing with her all night when I had to get up in like 3 hours to go to work and provide for us. So I walked upstairs, grabbed her PJs for her, and went back to bed. The next morning when I got downstairs, I found her on the couch. She told me that she barely slept and felt horrible about the night before. She called me a jerk and said that by not helping her, I only embarrassed her more. She then told me she would be staying with her mom until I got my crap together. It's been half a day now, and she's not responding to my texts. I talked about it with a few coworkers, and I'm getting mixed responses, but I just want to make sure. Am I the jerk? Edit 1. So after about 5 hours, most of y'all seem to agree that I am the jerk. Danny's coming home tonight to pick up some stuff, so I hope we'll have a moment to talk it out then. I'll take your guys' verdict into account going into the conversation. I did see some people who would see my side of the story, so I do hope she'll take that into account too. We'll update soon. Edit 2. Keeping it brief because of word limit, we'll post full update after judgment. Edit 2. Danny and her mom came back to pick up some stuff last night. Danny and I talked. She told me her side, I told her my side. In the end, we both ended up apologizing and agreed we were going to work on it. She's going to be staying with her mom until we find a comfortable way for Danny to sleep downstairs at my place. Honestly, dude, you're the jerk. Man up and help out the woman who is actively carrying your child. You going to the bathroom on yourself when you were drunk is not even remotely related to your pregnant wife struggling to move fast enough to get to where she needs to go. If it happens again, help her out. For now, I just apologize and acknowledge her feelings. I remember this one time when my husband and I were dating and didn't live together. I got food poisoning and woke up throwing up. I called him frantic because I was being sick everywhere and couldn't stop and was scared. He drove over in the middle of the night, cleaned up my bed while I cleaned myself, packaged me and a toddler up, and bundled us up and brought us to his parents' house so I wouldn't be sick alone. FYI, OP, my husband has a squeamish stomach and is ill at the sight, sound, and thought of others being sick. He still totally cleaned up after me alone, when it wasn't his house, when I wasn't his wife, when I wasn't pregnant, just because he loved me and I needed help. Explain your excuse to me again. You're the jerk. She's in her 3rd trimester. You should have helped. You also need to figure something out so she doesn't have to go up and down stairs in the middle of the night, but she may have figured that out for herself by moving to her mother's. You're the jerk. Just because she is capable of cleaning up after herself doesn't mean she has to and that you couldn't have helped. Now, I've never been in this particular situation, but there have been plenty of times where my partner and I will clean up after each other in situations because we both have empathy and feel bad for each other. Yes, we could make them do it themselves because they got 2 feet and a heartbeat, but there is a sense of love and compassion there. It's in sickness and in health, dude. If you can't do that, maybe she's right to question her status raising a kid with you. Not the jerk. If she's already so entitled to think you have to clean up her mess like this, just wait until she has the baby. Can you imagine if the roles were flipped? I went to the bathroom in the living room, and my wife refuses to clean it up for me. What would all these idiots be saying then? Oh, but this is different because she's pregnant. Yeah, boo-hoo, cry me a river. 100 years ago, pregnant women were still able to actually, be adults and get things done. Why is it different now? Oh yeah, entitlement is now through the roof. Seriously, man, leave her now and find someone who can act like an actual adult. She's testing you right now to see how low you're willing to stoop for her. Guarantee you, if you had done it for her, she'd be bragging to her friends and family about how much of a pushover you are, and they'd all be laughing at you. Don't be like the pushovers in these comments. These are the same guys whose wives are staying the night at Tyrone's place, and these dudes are okay with it because they're so sad and weak. I got my stepsister and her family banned from Christmas. I have a daughter, Elena, who's 6, and my stepsister, Jess, has a daughter, Hattie, who's 5. Me, my husband, Jess, and her husband, Paul, are all staying at our parents' house over the Christmas period. For context, Paul arrived a day after the rest of us, very late at night because he does shift work and worked late before driving to our parents. The next morning, the girls were playing in Elena's room at about 10 a.m. The adults were all downstairs except Paul because he was sleeping and my stepdad was out. Suddenly, we heard Paul shouting. This is not too unusual, if unpleasant, but this episode sounded particularly bad, so we got up. Before we can even get to the stairs, my daughter runs down crying, saying Paul had shouted at her for waking him up. My husband was livid and went upstairs to deal with Paul while I calmed my daughter down. I knew it would be absolutely impossible for us to be around Paul after what had happened, so we would probably be leaving. Jess said that was ridiculous. Paul probably got annoyed and was tired, and he'd apologize and everything would be fine. I said no, it would not be fine. Nobody shouts at my kid and remains on speaking terms with me or around my kid. Paul should know better than to be acting like that with other people's kids. When my stepdad came back, we told him what happened and that we would be leaving because we refused to subject Elena to being around Paul after what he had done, and we don't trust him to not overstep his boundaries like that again. My stepdad agreed, but said that it was unfair we should have to leave after Paul was the problem. He called Paul and Jess down and said that they had to go, weren't welcome on Christmas or until after we had gone home. Paul tried to defend himself, saying the kids should have been more quiet, but when my husband got annoyed, Paul half-heartedly apologized. I didn't believe a word of his apology. My stepdad reiterated that Jess was welcome to stay without Paul, but Paul had to be gone within the hour. Jess started crying and said it was unfair and that my stepdad was choosing me over her and was a horrible father. She went off on a rant, so I left the room with Alina, and the next I saw was her and Paul going upstairs to pack. They left without a goodbye. Since they've been gone, every few hours I've gotten a text from Jess saying how I've ruined her Christmas and her relationship with her dad over 30 seconds of bad judgment. I don't think I created this situation because it was my stepdad's decision to throw them out. I offered to leave. I also think Paul made this bed that Jess is lying in. All he had to do was come downstairs and ask us to quiet the kids, or pop his head into the room and ask politely. Nevertheless, I do feel bad that Jess is stuck in the middle and that Hattie won't see her grandparents on Christmas because of this. Did I overreact? Would Paul apologizing have been enough? Edit. Regarding the kids being unsupervised, I was upstairs with them and we were all going down to do some baking. The girls asked for 10 more minutes to continue playing before coming down, so I went down to get all the stuff ready in the kitchen. They weren't on their own for hours on end. They were playing with a large dollhouse in Alina's room, hence why they were not playing downstairs to start with. Not the jerk. A 5-year-old and a 6-year-old are going to make noise playing together. It was 10 a.m., not 1 a.m., so I fail to see why anyone should have gotten angry about it. I'm stuck on the part where you say Paul shouting is unpleasant but not unusual. That's an issue. If your brother-in-law is shouting at his kid enough for it to be a normal thing, there's something wrong there. Good for you for standing up for your kid and your family. Paul has absolutely no business shouting at your daughter for playing. She's 6. You didn't demand they get kicked out. You told your family that as a result of your brother-in-law's inappropriate behavior, you would leave, so your daughter wasn't subjected to it anymore. Your stepdad obviously agrees that Paul was out of line, otherwise he wouldn't have asked you to stay and Paul to leave. I have a feeling this shouting thing happens often, otherwise I don't see why your stepdad would have asked Paul to leave. Everyone sucks here. Paul is a jerk for shouting rather than using his words like an adult. You're a jerk for immediately going nuclear and dramatically announcing you're leaving without so much as a discussion. Your stepdad is a jerk for not even trying to mediate and jumping straight to kicking your stepsister's family out. You all need to learn to communicate more effectively. Am I the jerk for prioritizing my dog over my mom's stepkid? I, 32 female, have a 12-year-old American bully named Rory. Because of her age, she had a lot of health issues. Right now, she needs to have surgery. It's going to be around $6,000 plus about $3,000 to $4,000 in meds, followed by 6 months in therapy. That's going to be $10,000 to $12,000. That brings the total to $22,000 at the most. I can easily afford it because I have a good job in IT. I don't have any debt to pay, I'm child-free, and I budget myself very well. My mom was what you can call a weekend parent. She never really mothered me. She will often let me fend for myself. Because of that, my childhood was practically non-existent. My dad passed when I was 2, and my grandparents lived far away, so I was by myself 99% of the time. I went low contact with her when I started college. Last year, she got married to Alex, who has a 5-year-old son, David, from a previous relationship. I wasn't aware of any of this. I didn't know she was dating, and I didn't know she got married. Mom called me last night because David has some health issues and needs medical care that's too expensive for their budget. That's when I found out about Alex. Apparently, my mom didn't tell me anything because if I knew about Alex, she would have been forced to invite me to the wedding, which she didn't want to do because Alex doesn't know I exist. Basically, she wants me to send her $15,000 to pay for David's treatment or whatever he needs. I said no. I'm doing well financially, but I don't have that kind of money, and I'm not paying for a random kid. I told Mom as nice as I could that I can't help her because 1, I don't want to, and 2, I don't have the money. She ended the call. She found out about my Rory surgery from my cousin, and this morning I woke up to a bunch of voicemails and texts calling me all possible names because I chose my dog over her stepkid. I texted back this: yes, that dog means the world to me and I will do anything I can for her. David is nothing to me. You got married without telling me because you don't want your hubby to know I exist. Perfect. If I don't exist in your little perfect life, then why are you asking me for money? Your stepkid isn't my responsibility. I wouldn't give you $15,000 even if I had it, because you're not important enough to me to spare that kind of money. You haven't called me in, what, 3 years? 4? And now you want money from me? Nah. Safe to say, my family is now calling me a monster because I would rather help a dog than a kid. My decision is final, but I'm curious if I'm the jerk. Update. Regarding Rory's surgery, it's nothing life-threatening. She has nerve damage, so her back legs are almost completely numb. The surgery is going to help her walk properly. She isn't going to be in pain because the nerves are almost completely gone. I wouldn't go through with it if I knew she would be in pain after. 2. I talked with my cousin and she gave me Alex's full name, so I found him on Facebook. I messaged him and I told him everything. I sent him more than enough proof that I am who I said I was. I told him to tell my mom that she and the rest of the family can go forget themselves. 3. I blocked all my family and I'm not planning on ever having contact with them again. Rory has our last checkup today and she's scheduled for surgery in 2 days, so we're going to do all of her favorite activities before she has the surgery. I've taken time off of work and I'm going to work from home until she recovers completely. Thank you for all of the support and good wishes for her. My stepdaughter is demanding a trust fund from me. I, 39 female, come from a very wealthy family. I never had to struggle for anything because my mom or dad would always just give it to me. I can say that I grew up spoiled, but I grew out of that phase once I had my twins. Since I was so spoiled and never got in trouble for anything as a teenager, I was always going to parties with my friends, doing things I shouldn't have been doing. Then at 16, I found out I was pregnant and I gave birth at 17 to my 2 beautiful twins, a girl and a boy. Thankfully, my parents were supportive and helped me through the process. My parents had set up a trust fund for me when I was a kid, and I wasn't able to access it until I was 18. So when I turned 18, I moved out and got a condo. I only used my trust fund whenever it was for my kids, rent, or essentials around the house. I also took some out and put it in an emergency fund. I got a job at my dad's company, so I was able to live comfortable, but not keep up with the lifestyle that I grew up with. When I was 31, I met my now husband and his daughter, who was 4 years younger than my kids. Me and my husband dated for about 4 years, then we got married 2 months before my twins' birthday. On my twins' 18th birthday, my parents gifted them each a trust fund of their own. It summed up to $200,000 each. Now, my twins are both 22 years old, and both are thriving. I like to give myself a pat on the back for how I raised them and not how my parents raised me. Now to the issue at hand of my stepdaughter, who is now 18 years old, and for the past couple of months, she's been saying how she couldn't wait to get her trust fund like my twins, and I didn't know if she would or not because I never knew about the twins. Now when her birthday came around, she did get money, just not the trust fund from my parents. Instead, they gave her a car. But to say she was disappointed is an understatement. She said we didn't love her because she wasn't blood, and that we've always treated her differently because she wasn't my daughter, which wasn't true. I've loved her since the day I met her, and I've always treated her like she was one of mine. She then asked me why didn't I tell her that she wasn't getting a trust fund since that was all that she was talking about, and I told her that I didn't know if she was getting one or not. Then she told me that I should have made one for her myself. I tried to tell her that it wasn't possible, but she didn't want to listen to me and just said that she hated me. So, am I the jerk? Edit. I would just like to add beforehand, my husband has told her multiple times to not be expecting a trust fund because she might not get it. And I also told her that I didn't know if she would get one or not, but she chose to ignore us. Edit 2. So I had a talk with my parents and stepdaughter. I did ask my parents how come they didn't give her a trust fund like my twins. They said that since they don't know stepdaughter that well, that they felt like a trust fund was too personal because they didn't have that grandparent-grandchild relationship, which is understandable. My parents rarely got to see stepdaughter because she just moved in with me and my husband when we got married, and my mom and dad like to travel a lot, so they really only got to see her on holidays and birthdays. That's why they got her a car, because it's not that big of a present, because her last car was wrecked up pretty bad. I also apologized to her for not just telling her that she wasn't getting a trust fund and letting her get her hopes up, but I did explain to her that she shouldn't just expect something just because someone else got it, especially something as personal as a trust fund. She apologized for how she reacted and thanked my parents for the car, but I think she's still disappointed, so I plan to take her out of the country for a birthday trip with my husband and the twins. Also, for anyone wondering, the car she got was a 2023 BMW 5 Series. Not the jerk. Your stepdaughter has been a part of the family for only 4 years. Why would she feel entitled to a trust fund from your parents? How has your husband handled her expectations? That's what I was thinking. If they set up a trust fund for OP when she was a kid, They probably set up a trust for the twins after they were born and had 18 years to contribute and let interest accrue. If anything, maybe let the grandparents know she was talking about it and see if they were going to do the same for stepdaughter. But I'm really not sure how I feel about that. It's the grandparents' money to do with as they please, not the stepmom's. So you married her dad 4 years ago, and somehow she felt that when she turned 18, she'd be entitled to a generous trust fund from your parents? Is that correct? That's kind of crazy, to be honest. But what's crazier is that nobody, not you, not your husband, sat her down when she started to bring this up and say that it probably wouldn't happen. Not the jerk. It's a wild expectation for a 17-year-old to have, but one of her parents should have curtailed that expectation before it got out of control. Not the jerk. She got a free car. What's she complaining for? Seriously ungrateful. I would love a new car at this age. With today's economy, she can sell the new car and buy an old car to use and put the rest in an investment or a savings account. Am I the jerk for not changing my tradition for my daughter-in-law and making things uncomfortable? I have a tradition that every June and December, on the first Saturday of the month, I make a traditional dish from my country for my family and friends. Everyone loves it, and it's a family recipe. My youngest son has been married to Wendy for 3 years, together one before. I didn't know her that well because they didn't live here. Wendy is a rising chef. In June, Wendy asked if she could help me make the dish, and I said yes. It was my biggest regret. She gave advice on all seasoning choices, and even though I said it's a family recipe, she kept giving her opinion. When that date passed, I made it clear that I would not like any more help, first and last time. She took it personally, and our relationship became uncomfortable. Last month, day 16, I received an invitation from my son and Wendy to go to their house because Wendy was going to make this dish. It was the first Sunday in December. To clarify, this dish is not something you can eat 2 days in a row, as it's heavy. Some sent me a message asking if mine would still happen. They know it's always the first Saturday, and I confirmed. On the 20th, I sent the formal invitation by message. My son called as soon as he received it, asking if it would be on the first Saturday, and I confirmed, and he started saying that people can't eat it 2 days in a row, and if I couldn't leave it for another week, because Wendy wanted to do it to get closer to the family. I said no, as it's my tradition, and despite finding their choice of date unpleasant, I won't stop them, but I will continue with the usual dates. He proceeded to say I'm making things uncomfortable, and a week later it wouldn't bother me, and used the coin her invite was before. I was perplexed and said that everyone knows it's the first Saturday of the month, including them, so it wouldn't change all my plans. Things got uncomfortable, of course, but I kept it because it's something that doesn't just involve me. Friends and family already conformed. So there was a party on Saturday with friends and family. He and Wendy didn't come. And on Sunday, I didn't go because I worked that day. Many didn't come, and those who did, few ate the food because they couldn't eat it twice. During the week, my son sent a message asking if it was worth it to have done that and upset her because it spoiled the moment that she wanted to have with our family. He stressed that I could have been the better person, but I preferred not to be. I don't think this attack is very fair, but I wanted an outside opinion. It was the best date for all of my family and friends in December as they get together before the festivities, for me too. Tradition that has been going on for 10 years. Not the jerk. It sounds like she took it personally when you didn't follow her professional opinion and wanted to upstage you on your own tradition. Not the jerk. This is a family tradition of 10 years. Traditions are important, and attempting to modify or change them is offensive. 2. She's clearly trying to upstage you to prove to the family that she can make this dish better. 3. Her choice of dates was passive-aggressive. 4. Your son is also a jerk for letting this happen. If Wendy clearly wants to get closer to the family, she can easily start her own tradition which doesn't conflict with yours. Not the jerk. Your daughter-in-law seems very pretentious. Instead of trying to be respectful of you and your recipes, she's decided she'd rather upstage you, in her eyes. Your son owes you an apology, and you need to make it clear to him that she is welcome to be a part of the family. She's not welcome to disrespect your family traditions and recipes just because of her profession. Karen is manipulating my fiancé. Now he's dumping me. My fiancé is a single dad to Summer, who's 15. Summer has an autoimmune disease, and her mom isn't in the picture. Her dad's spoils are rotten because of this. If dinner's already done, but Summer wants something else, He orders it for her because she gets cravings. She doesn't do any chores around the house, and I'm not allowed to ask her for help with anything. If she's being a brat, he excuses it because her medicines cause mood swings, and she can demand all of his attention whenever she wants it. Summer goes to one of those year-round schools, so instead of a 3-month summer break, they get like a month in the summer and they split the other 2 months up throughout the rest of the year. Because of this, she has a 4-week winter break. Summer was supposed to spend the first week of winter break on vacation with her friend and her mom. It was okay at first. I enjoyed spending time with my fiance without her interrupting us every 10 minutes, but she still called when she woke up, before she went to bed, and every few hours in between. She constantly complained that she missed him. This was the first time she's been away from him since her mom left. On day 4, we got a call from her friend's mom. Summer wasn't feeling well and wanted to go home. I answered the phone the first time, and I asked the mom if she had a fever. Was she throwing up, or was she actually sick? The mom said no fever or throwing up, but she's just tired and says that she wants to go home. I told her to tell Summer to stick it out and call us if she actually gets sick. Summer decided to call her dad, say she didn't feel good, and that I said she couldn't come home. He didn't even give me a chance to explain myself before kicking me out of the house and starting the 4-hour drive to the friend's cabin. When they got home, he told me he needs to rethink our relationship. I told him Summer is manipulating him now like she always does, and listed examples of her using her illness to get what she wants with her dad. He told me not to contact him for the next few weeks while he thinks about if he really wants to marry me and hasn't spoken to me since. Am I the jerk for saying Summer is manipulative? You're the jerk. Summer doesn't need a reason to come home. If she wanted to come home because she wanted to sleep in her own bed, that is valid. Also, autoimmune disease can be debilitating, and there's not enough info here to know if she is actually just being a brat or if you are being a jerk. But based off the rest of your post, I'm going with the latter. It's wild that you feel entitled to gatekeep when someone else's kid is allowed to come back to their home. You're not looking like the step-parent material. I think rethinking this marriage will be in the best interest of everyone involved. Edit, because people make excuses like this woman didn't know what she signed up for. Are y'all on like 90-day finance or something? Cause I'm confused how you could have been together more than 90 days and not realize this was not gonna work out with how much vitriol you have for his daughter. OP is a fairy tale villain type of stepmother. You're the jerk. You're the jerk. Are you modeling your approach to being a stepmother from Disney? You're the jerk. Whether or not she's spoiled, it's not on you to decide if Summer can come home or not. You're not the parent, and you didn't make that decision based on parenting or helping the kid, but just because you didn't want her around. You're dating a man with a kid and not the mother around. You're not always going to be the center of his attention. You need to grow up. You're the jerk, both for calling her manipulative and for telling Summer to stick it out when she's sick. Clearly, you prefer that this kid not be around. I enjoyed spending time with my fiance without her interrupting us. He's a dad. They're a package deal. You guys are not compatible, and honestly, your actions and attitude are unforgivable. Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk or not? Please let us know. My own daughter refuses to help me. I'm 54 and my daughter is 28. She's home on break from grad school getting her PhD. She's only home for 2 weeks because she says that she doesn't have any more time even though she has a month break. That's been a big thing with her lately. She's constantly too busy to do things with us or help us out even though she does have the time. I got my younger daughter a sweater and it turns out that she already has it. I called my older daughter from work on Friday and told her she needed to run and exchange it for a different one. She said okay, she'd do it the next day. I said it needed to be done that day to get the best options, and she said she was grading, so she can't. I told her that it's not like she can't pause her grading, run out, and exchange it. She said she wasn't going to slow down her work and just said that I should do it when I got back from work that day. I said I was busy too and didn't feel like running out after a long day of work, and she said neither does she. But she doesn't have a long day of work. She's sitting on her butt at her computer all day and doesn't even have scheduled hours to work. She can do it whenever she wants. Today, things really kicked off because I needed her to pick up an online order for a gift from my mom, her grandma. She again used the excuse of grading. She hadn't even started working yet. It was in the morning and she was drinking coffee and having breakfast. She said that she needs to have her grades done by today, but I looked it up on the website and she has until Monday evening, so I called her on her BS, and she said she had other work due on Monday, so she needed to get the grading done today, but wouldn't enlighten me on what this mysterious other work was. I said, well, tough. This needs to be picked up today so I can wrap it, and I was going into the office, so I couldn't do it. She said that if I don't want to do it myself, then it will be done on her own time. I told her with that attitude, she can stay somewhere else, and she said, happily, and packed her things, claiming she didn't want to stay here anyway, but was only doing so because I insisted. She left her gifts and said to not expect her for the holidays, and she'll go to her girlfriend's family instead. I think it's ridiculous that she's throwing a fit just because she can't constantly live like she's the only person on the planet. But my wife and other daughter are now furious with me. So I figured I'd ask here because my younger daughter is always reading the stories with me. Am I the jerk, or am I correct that my daughter is self-centered and childish? Edit. I want to clarify two things. 1. I'm her dad. Not sure why everyone keeps referring to me as her mother. 2. Everyone keeps telling me that the grade due date is actually the post date. If I was allowed to, I would post the link so that you could see that her calendar literally says December 19th, grades due from faculty, and December 20th, grades posted. She literally admitted to lying that they were due Sunday, today. So I'm not sure why people are so stuck on insisting I'm wrong about that. You're the jerk. Are you correct that your daughter is self-centered and childish? Nope, that's a mirror that you're looking at. Seriously, this grown man is throwing a temper tantrum because his adult daughter isn't willing to take orders and run his errands. I hope she has an awesome Christmas with her girlfriend. I have a feeling he made her take responsibility for his errands a lot growing up, and she's come back home to see her family armed with boundaries because she knows what it's like. He doesn't like not being able to order her around anymore. Yes, this is also one reason that students who are the first in their family to attend college, graduate school, etc. can struggle because they lack the support and understanding at home. They're still asked to chip in with chores and duties around the house because it's just school, or they aren't working. I don't know if that's what's at play here though, because this just sounds like an entitled jerk parent who's upset he's losing control over his daughter. OP says himself that she's sitting on her butt on her computer all day and doesn't even have scheduled hours to work, which adds a lot of color here to the situation. It seems clear that he doesn't view what she does as real work, which is honestly really sad, and the fact that he's mystified as to what other work she has beyond teaching and grading tells me that they do not have a good relationship. If you've ever met a graduate student, it's generally pretty hard to get them to shut up about their research interests once you get them going on it. That OP's dad is struggling to figure out what else his daughter might be doing tells me that he probably has little to no idea what it is that she's actually studying. Good for her for setting boundaries. Am I the jerk for refusing to lie to my niece about why she's not allowed to come skiing with me? I, female 29, have a brother, Hugo, who's 31. When Hugo was 19, he got his then-girlfriend, Amy, pregnant. They had their daughter, Ashley, who's now 11, and later got married and had a boy who's 4. Over the years, I've become close to Ashley. When I'm home, I live abroad, I take her out to shows, shopping, horse riding, etc. We always keep in contact via text. She's bright and thoughtful, just a pleasure to have around. Amy has never liked me, but has mostly put this aside for Ashley. Me and my boyfriend are visiting my family for Christmas and then leaving to go skiing. We arranged for Ashley to come skiing and stay with us for New Year's. Amy wasn't keen on this idea, but relented because Ashley was excited to learn how to ski, as all of her friends do. I took my boyfriend's hire car to pick Ashley up from school on Friday, and she was excited because it's a sports car, and I let her friends sit in it and take pictures. At dinner, she asked if I would drive her to and chaperone her and her friends going ice skating on Tuesday in town. Hugo said I probably didn't want to look after a bunch of kids, and Amy had already planned to chaperone. Ashley ignored him and begged me to chaperone. I didn't really mind, but Amy looked annoyed, so I said I wouldn't want to mess with the established plan. Ashley kept pushing and said she didn't want Amy to come because Amy dresses badly and was never fun and embarrassed her. Hugo told her to apologize, which she did, but she also kept insisting it was true. Amy got teary-eyed, and Hugo kept telling Ashley she had upset her mother, but this just made Ashley angrier and she dug her heels in. Because of this, she was told she was not allowed to go ice skating and is now not speaking to Amy. Yesterday, Amy and Hugo came to me and said they didn't want Ashley to come skiing anymore. Amy feels like Ashley needs to spend more time with her family and Hugo is supporting her. They asked if I would tell Ashley that me and my boyfriend had changed our plans and wouldn't be going on the trip anymore. I asked why, and they said that if they told Ashley the truth, that she would blame Amy, and that would defeat the point of her trying to build a bridge with Ashley. I said I understand that, but I didn't feel right lying to Ashley, and if her parents had made the decision, they need to deal with the consequences, not push it onto me. Amy said if I cared about Ashley, I would realize it's best for me to fall on my sword rather than alienate her further from her mother. I said no again, but Hugo said we should all take until Wednesday to think about it. Ashley is still being very standoffish to her mother, and I know if she finds out her mother canceled the ski trip, it will just get worse. So now I'm wondering if I should go along with Amy's plan. I just want to know what's best for Ashley. Am I the jerk? Edit. To add the background to Amy and Ashley's relationship. A lot of it comes from Amy trying very hard to be Ashley's friend. Amy was young when she had Ashley, and she was quite isolated caring for her while Hugo worked and went to uni. He was cut off by her parents at that time. She threw all her effort into being a mom and being as close to Ashley as humanly possible. Ashley has explained to me that this has become very suffocating to her. She's trying to forge her own circle and feels like Amy insists on being part of it, while also refusing to engage with her on her own level. The second part is that my parents pay for Ashley to attend a very prestigious private school. Hugo and Amy are nowhere near as affluent as the other families, and Ashley feels a bit left out. It's part of the reason I've chipped in for some of her extracurricular activities. But the fact is, she doesn't always feel like she fits in, which is hard for her. Her school is full of non-working Range Rover and Birkin mothers who are either cool or absent, and Amy is neither. She's involved, but Ashley finds her stifling and doesn't want her to be involved in her social life. It's also my opinion that Ashley is trying to get some emotional space from her mother the only way she knows how, by making her not want to spend time with her. Amy doesn't respond to her requests, so I think she's just resorting to being mean to her, which obviously isn't okay. Edit 2. Since this is being asked a lot, Ashley and I have talked since the dinner, and she knows I think she shouldn't have said what she said. We've talked about it. She even said that she shouldn't have said what she did. Did I go ham and tell her that she's entitled, spoiled, and throw the kitchen sink at her? No, but she knows that I think what she said was wrong, and she agrees. Not the jerk. And not only will Ashley prefer knowing the truth, but she will also feel as though she can trust you because you're refusing to lie to her. Also, Amy trying to guilt you into lying by pulling the "if you actually care about Ashley" rhetoric is such a jerk move. Not the jerk. Amy and Hugo need to confront Ashley about how she treats her mother, and they should not ask you to lie. Ashley not going on the ski trip should be presented for what it actually is, a punishment, not a means of bridge building. Not the jerk. Ashley, on the other hand, is. Ashley's being a typical preteen, embarrassed by her parents. Most kids at some point get embarrassed by their parents. The family needs therapy, not lies. Let's face it, at the minimum, 4 people will know about their lie. Ashley's parents, the OP, and her boyfriend. Is the OP expected to lie to everyone who asks her why Ashley isn't going skiing? Because I would guess that other family members know about the plans. My point is that a lot of people will know about the lie, and the more people who know about the lie, the greater the chance that someone will accidentally let slip the truth. And once Ashley knows the truth, she will lose all trust in her parents, and the situation will likely get worse. Ashley should be told that her behavior has lost her this skiing trip, the truth. And Amy and Ashley probably need therapy to help their relationship. Therapy, not punishment. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP, Amy, or Ashley? Please let us know.
If I had ever mouthed off like that at my mother when I was growing up, you don't even want to know what my parents would have done to me.
Am I the jerk for buying a separate fridge for our garage and putting a lock on it to keep my husband out? I, 32 female, am expecting my first child with my husband Paul, 36 male. Fake names. I'm currently 10 weeks pregnant, and my biggest pregnancy issue is fatigue and mainly cravings and hunger. No matter what I do, I can't seem to stay full. I eat all day, but have managed to still lose 3 pounds. Problem is, we don't always have what I want. So a few times a week, I stop at the store on my way home and I stock up on my favorite snacks. Pizza, pickles, fruit, especially oranges, grapes, and watermelon, popcorn, chicken noodle soup, string cheese, etc. I've been doing this since maybe about 5 weeks. But every time I check the fridge, almost all of my snacks are gone. I keep telling Paul to stop eating my food, and he says that it's not a big deal and I can just go get more. But that involves me, not him, stopping at the store more, and me, again, not him, spending more of my money. Last week, I just snapped. I had bought my favorite ice cream, Neapolitan. I put it in the freezer and decided to take a nap before writing a paper. I'm currently getting my master's. I planned to have a bowl when I woke up and began working on it. When I woke up, I went to the freezer and saw it had been opened. Now, I can't eat an entire quart of ice cream all by myself, so I wasn't mad that he had some until I saw what he did to it. My husband ate all of the strawberry side and left me with just the vanilla and chocolate, and the strawberry is my favorite part. I got mad and started yelling at him. He told me it was unreasonable of me to bring food in the house and not expect him to have any of it. But I told him that wasn't what I expected, but he knew that was my favorite ice cream and my favorite part of it was all gone, and he's always eating my snacks. He just told me to run to the store and get some more, so I just went back upstairs because he wasn't listening. I opened my laptop and ordered a full-sized fridge, $2,300, paid for from my personal savings account that he has never contributed to. My husband and I don't mingle our accounts together, so he never saw I bought it until 2 days ago when it was delivered to our house. He came home from work and saw it plugged in our garage. He asked why there were locks on it and how much it cost. I told him not to worry about how much it cost, and there's locks on it to make sure he doesn't eat all my snacks for my cravings. He said I can't control what he eats, and I told him I'm not. I'm just controlling who eats my snacks, but the fridge in the house is open and he can have whatever he wants from it and the cabinets. But the fridge in the garage is for me only. I haven't had to go to the store at all this weekend, and all my food is locked up. But Paul is not speaking to me for 2 reasons: for making a large purchase without talking to him first, and for turning food into a war, his words. So, am I the jerk? Edit. FYI, this is the only issue we're having right now. We've been married for 2 years. Edit 2. Also, I got a full size instead of a mini because ours in the kitchen is kind of old, and I figured it could be replaced if it should go out. Or it could just be in the garage for the summer, and we can put beers and sodas in it. Not the jerk for getting a refrigerator. You have every right to be annoyed and frustrated that he has no respect for you concerning food. What bothers me is that after eating your food, he tells you to go out and buy more. That's some nerve. Why doesn't he go out himself and replace the food he took? He sounds extraordinarily selfish. Unless he's willing to have some kind of couples counseling, I'm afraid he will keep behaving this way even after the baby arrives. You are so right. He's saying, yes, I ate all the food you bought for growing my baby. I don't care that it upsets you. No, I will not get up off my lazy butt and spend my money to replace your food. You just need to take your hungry pregnant self back to the store so I have more food. This guy is a selfish jerk. It doesn't seem like he cares about OP all that much. I wouldn't have bought a new fridge. I would have changed the locks. OP, you are not the jerk, but you really need to consider what your future is going to look like, because I don't think his attitude is going to get better. Once your baby comes, you will be a single mother of 2. Sounds like he turned it into a war first. Not the jerk. Shame you have a kid with this person already though. It will make the inevitable divorce messier. Not the jerk. The fact that he eats all of your snacks and then refuses to go to the store to replace them with his own money, but expects you to constantly return to the store to replace with your money is a massive red flag. You're about to have this jerk's baby. I think you need to consider couples counseling because this is not a healthy partnership. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her husband? Please let us know. Man, I never knew how seriously people take their snacks. It's not the snacks, Karen. It's the blatant disrespect that he's showing, which is a major red flag. I know. Please don't talk to me like you're a Reddit comment. Stop communicating? Fine. I've been working as an underwriter for several years. I evaluate loans that are submitted through the queue. I also forward some loan applications, apps, to senior underwriters should applicants apply for a higher amount. Part of our expectations as underwriters is to decide on at least 3 apps each hour. If we do not meet this request, then we are put on warnings and are subject to being fired. I work alone with another underwriter on Sundays. He let me know that he was very low on his decisions per hour, and in the spirit of cooperation, and because my numbers are always well above that due to experience, I asked him how many apps he'd like to work out of the main queue, and it is first come first served for apps. At first, he was appreciative of the help and would let me know how much he was going to do, and I'd be sure to leave the apps for them. A month ago, he IM'd me and told me to stop asking him how many apps he was going to do that day, as he was feeling micromanaged. I let him know that I was just trying to help him meet his numbers, and that I was only asking to make sure I didn't get in the way. He told me to stop communicating with him and to just work the queue. I made sure to document the conversation should there be any backlash for the upcoming malicious compliance. From that day on, I just used my experience to my advantage and claimed as many apps as I could. On a normal Sunday, there are around 150 apps. Under our arrangement before, I did half of them and left the other 75-ish for him. The queues and how intense the applications are can vary, which is why I'd always communicate with him. After that, I did as many apps as I felt I could, while still being accurate, as that is another thing that we're judged on. For the last 3 Sundays, the amount of apps the other underwriter did has gone down to around 20 apps each Sunday due to how fast and accurately I was able to get through the rest of the queue. I also stopped answering his questions in the chats and said that I was too busy working to answer his questions. He is now on a verbal warning, and he is too prideful to tell me he was wrong or apologize, so I'm keeping course. I was able to change shifts and no longer work Sundays due to how good my numbers look, so I will no longer have to work with him alone on Sunday. I still refuse to answer his questions the other days of the week we work. I have not been approached by my management for my malicious compliance and have only been praised on my work thus far. My husband is demanding to attend his ex's funeral. I'll admit that I'm biased right off the bat. I couldn't stand her. I call her his ex to myself and others. He called her his friend. We're all in our early 40s. She passed recently from aneurysm. I've been with him for 10 years now, but he had known her for 20 plus years. The way he tells it, they were friends in college, decided to date, got married, then realized they weren't a great couple and decided to just be friends. All that happened years before I met him. He was clear early on that she was important. A couple months into dating, it came up that his friend was actually his ex-wife. He explained the above to me, saying that she was one of his closest friends and that it was purely platonic. I expressed some discomfort at him being so close to an ex, and he told me, "That's fine. If you have a serious issue with it, let me know now and save us some time. I'll choose her. I like you and all, but I've known her for over 12 years, and she's one of the most important people in my life. You'll have to be okay with that if you want us to be a thing." When we were engaged, I asked again. He gave me this perplexed look and asked, "Why would us getting married affect my friendships?" I sucked it up and went along. I resented every moment of knowing her, especially when we had to be social. She understood some part of him that I couldn't. Her husband was friends with mine as well, so it's not like I could use him as an angle. He'd have lunch with her. They'd go to their geeky movies and whatever. The few times I brought it up, he said, "We had this conversation before. You had your chance to back out." She passed after they had lunch the other day on her way to the car. He spent a bunch of time crying, but honestly, I was relieved. He was working with her husband on funeral planning. I told him, "You don't think you're going, do you?" My argument summed up. She's gone, so she's not a factor anymore. He doesn't get to use his "she's my friend" excuse since she doesn't exist anymore. He had his cry for a couple of days. He gets to be done with mourning her already. There's no need for him to go to the funeral, since I wouldn't want her at his. He was the angriest I've ever seen him when I told him that, replying that he'll be going no matter how I feel, and that he's willing to burn this to the ground while holding up his wedding band. Besides you, she was the closest friend in my life. Him, her husband, and my sisters are calling me an insensitive jerk over this, all saying that there was no romantic aspect to their relationship and that I'm heartless. Her husband went so far as to call me a ghoul for how I've reacted. I never felt their relationship was appropriate, and I hid that for years because I wanted to be with my husband. Now that she's gone, I don't feel I should have to hide it anymore and can speak freely. Am I the jerk for just wanting him to be done with her and for him not to attend the funeral? You're the jerk. When he divorces you, he probably won't have to explain his friendship with you to the next woman, because seriously, who'd want to stay friends with a woman who had treated you like this? You're the jerk. Congrats on your impending divorce. If she doesn't exist anymore, why are you still so jealous of her? He can't even leave you for her now, so I think it's time you get past it. You're the jerk. You can speak freely, and he can leave after finding out how heartless you actually are. Fair enough. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her husband? Please let us know. Can't take time off when I want? What about when you don't want? In 2019, I started working for a big accounting firm right after college. I already had a bit of experience because of a few internships, and I always worked part-time ever since I was 16. But I was mainly hired because I spoke 4 languages and they had business with a lot of foreign clients. I was hired as a consultant, but I did a lot of things. I really enjoyed organizing big files, and I had a lot of experience with Excel since I had paid for a professional course during college. So besides my usual work of handling some clients and doing my reports, I was also doing a lot of things like sales reports, clients reports, basically most of the Excel files, and a lot of computer-based tasks. When lockdown hit and we started to work from home, I was able to automate most of my tasks during 2 or 3 months. I was able to program a code that would basically do the sales reports, most important file, and a few more automatically, and I could update it if I needed. My boss was over the moon with the update part, but I did not tell him that it was being done automatically. I did not tell anyone, for a matter of fact. This gave me a lot of extra time to talk to clients and pick up a few extra new ones, which gave me a considerable pay raise, since I was highly praised during the meetings with my direct boss and a few higher-ups. Whenever I did take time off, I had to delegate all of my tasks and client meetings to anyone I trusted, which was mostly Jimmy, fake name. Jimmy was a good personal friend of mine and was married to my cousin, so we would occasionally take time off at the same time for a vacation or family gathering. I was saving my vacation days for summer and winter, and in the only days I took during 2020, I let my tasks run automatically, and I told Jimmy that he didn't have to do it, and he really didn't ask questions since it was less work for him. However, me and Jimmy took a few days off at the same time to go to a wedding in another country, and I was told by my boss that he would let it happen, but to not make it a habit to take our vacation at the same time, and that I would have to work a bit harder to thank him for his good deed, and that my sales weren't getting any better in the last few months. I reminded him that I had the higher number of sales in all of the department, and I was the only one with the extra tasks, but he just told me that it wasn't a big deal and that anyone could have done that. So when I went on vacation, I turned off all of my automated tasks, and this was a big deal since it was the end of the month and my boss would need all my reports completely updated. Apparently, they had to put 5 people to do my tasks so that they could finish the reports, which delayed the work of that team, and the reports were late and lacked a few things that mine had. This was huge since all of the higher-ups weren't happy with my boss since he showed them the reports late, and they were clearly a downgrade from mine. And they also commented that there was a team failing a lot of deadlines that month, which was the team assigned to do my tasks. As soon as I got back to work, I got a call from my boss apologizing for not appreciating my work with the tasks, offering me a bonus, and asking me to not take time off at the end of the month ever again. I told him that it was an unreasonable request, and I reminded him that he already approved of my week off in 2 months, which was apparently still under approval, and he straight up told me that it wasn't going to be approved. I'm not usually an angry person, but I got really upset with this, and then he told me that as long as it wasn't at the end of the month, I could take time off whenever I wanted. Okay, fine. As soon as I got out of the call, I started looking for other jobs, and I scheduled all of my time off, about 3 weeks, to the next month, busiest month for us. This was a big deal since most of the big clients didn't speak English or our native tongue, and they wanted to talk to me, but nevertheless, my boss approved. Subsequently, Jimmy also scheduled time off at the same time, so despite not being end of the month, someone had to do my tasks since I would once again be turning them off. Apparently, they weren't able to handle neither of my clients or my tasks, and they just ignored the tasks until I got back. But some of the clients got really angry since no one could really assist them as well as I could, and I actually got a call on my personal phone from one of them asking me to assist him with my personal time and that he would be really appreciative of it. This was a huge client, and he was actually a great person that had a huge respect for me, so I said it was fine as long as he came to my location. I was on vacation with my family. So long story short, he came with a yacht and invited all of my family to go there and to the villa that he rented. I spent a whole day helping him and setting all of his orders and requests, and he was more than happy to offer me a job once he knew that I was looking for other jobs, since apparently I sent my curriculum to one of his buddies' companies. It was a huge offer with lots of benefits, and the offer would also extend to Jimmy, who was actually going to work for me with a great salary also. In my country, you don't have to give a 2 weeks notice to your boss, so I just quit when I returned and told him that I wouldn't do any of the sales reports. He was upset, but there was nothing that he could do. I'm still with the same company, but with a higher position now. I actually manage a huge team, and I don't really have a schedule. I just have to travel a lot, which is fine with me. Last I checked with a few friends that still work with the old company, they had to hire a whole new team to handle my tasks, and a few of the clients quit because they weren't satisfied with how they were being handled. Next time, you should value your employees more. Am I the jerk for telling my ex-husband that his wife's feelings are not mine or our kids' problem? My ex-husband and I share 3 kids. Our oldest is 15, our middle is 14, and our youngest is 13. We had them very close together, and then our marriage crashed and burned. We were young, unsuited to be together, and we both came from very restrictive households, which pushed us together out of a sense of clawing for freedom. I dated some after our marriage ended and realized I liked being single. He remarried a little over a year after our divorce. His wife is Annie. Annie and I have a complicated dynamic. She adores my kids, but was very jealous in those early days of her marriage to my ex because I had primary custody and he had every other weekend due to the nature of his job. I did not feel like Annie taking time while he was around was a good compromise to him obtaining 50-50, and a judge agreed, stating since Dad would not see the kids during that time, it made sense to keep them with Mom, me. 2 of my 3 kids were not super affectionate in general, but were with me, and more than once she made comments about rubbing it in her face or using my kids to try to hurt her, because the kids would not be the same with her. For 3 or so years, we had a very tense dynamic, and my ex was useless. I told him he should be doing better as my co-parent, but he told me his wife was more of the co-parent now. He eventually left the old job, and 50-50 began happening. Once 50-50 happened, we had some more issues, mostly because she started calling herself their mom, and I hated that. My kids have only ever called her Annie, and I know they used to say that she wasn't their mom, but I admit I was jealous. I also believe that's what she wanted to have happen. I did get it under control because my kids came first, but it was always annoying when she had already gone out of her way to introduce herself to someone as their mom, and then there was confusion because they called me mom. Things sort of calmed over the last 3 years. We're not close. We're not all one big family, but my kids are safe and looked after, and that's what matters to me. I also had them in therapy from a very young age, so that helped a lot too. Annie recently learned that she will not be able to have a biological kid of her own. She and my ex were trying for years, and she suffered 3 miscarriages at that time. I'm not sure of all of the details, but I do know that this was a blow. They found out the final results of testing last week. My ex told me that he wants the kids to spend more time with them and to be with them for Christmas. I get this year per our agreement. He admitted that the kids do not want to be there, but wanted me to agree anyway, because Annie's feelings and helping her. I told him no. He told me again about Annie's feelings, and I told him her feelings were not mine or our kids' problem. He called me a string of names and told me that Annie's feelings do matter to them because she is their parent. She is their family, and they should have more compassion and empathy for her. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. It's like you said, you and your kids are not responsible for Annie's feelings, and when the kids don't want to be there, you're being a good mom by respecting their wishes. Not the jerk. If your kids don't want to be there, then don't force them to be. It's not their job, or yours, to make her happy. Not the jerk. Your kids are old enough now to be choosing where they want to spend the holidays with. Maybe your ex and Annie can look into the foster care system. So many lovely kids, who through no fault of their own, need a mom and dad. Boss missed out on $100 million for treating his employee poorly. I used to work at a consulting company in Asia owned by a baby boomer European guy. Let's call the company COG, and the owner is Jerk. To give a brief background, Jerk spent his entire career working in the hospitality industry for various hotel brands all over the world. At one point, he specialized in one niche area in the industry and set up a consulting firm to provide consultancy to his business connections. The company employees were majority expats. I spent my entire career working in the financial industry, and I'm quite a specialist in the field of capital market fundraising. Jerk approached me with a great plan to list one of his properties in North America in a stock market. At that time, it seemed to be a good project. He also offered me a management position in the company he set up to deal with the listing process and a good salary in comparison to the job I had at the time. The agreement stated that if any party would like to terminate this agreement, they need to inform the other party 3 months in advance. Failing to do so will cost the party who initiated the termination a penalty fee equal to 3 months' salary. This will be relevant later. Unfortunately, I joined the company at the worst possible time, the year end of 2019. Initially, things were all right. Jerk spent only 1 to 2 days a week at the office and spent the rest of the week abroad to acquire new businesses. However, as everyone knows, a few months after that, the lockdown hit the hospitality sectors globally. Jerk lost all his business deals in the pipeline. His property in North America was also shut down. The only income stream for the company was payments from the existing contracts. Jerk got stuck in the office for 7 days a week with not much money in the bank account. This is when he showed his true characteristics. Despite the government's highly encouraged work-from-home policy, Jerk was dissatisfied with the idea. As a boomer, he wanted to see his employees working all the time. He called anyone who chose to work from home as lazy and cowardly. In addition, he would randomly call them several times a day on non-important issues just to ensure everyone was at the desk all the time. Furthermore, he would assign lots of non-necessary tasks. Remember, all business deals were canceled to these people to do so that they would need to stay very late to finish the work. He cut off 20 to 30% salary for all employees, including himself. This seemed acceptable at that time, given the economic conditions. However, this will come up later. He would be upset with anyone in the company who mentioned any news about lockdown. He just wanted to pretend that nothing had happened and that things would be back to normal soon. Due to the lockdown and the financial status of the company, my role significantly shifted from getting a company listed to selling our assets to whoever gives the right price. Thus, the company can survive. During these months, I had to work closely with the company CFO. CFO had a very impressive resume with a degree from an Ivy League university. However, for some reason, there was nothing inside that brain. He could talk about all the financial jargon all day long, but he could not understand even the basic concepts of these words. CFO would make mistakes all the time and trouble other colleagues. For some odd reason, CFO would receive only minor criticism from Jerk. Conversely, if other employees made 1/10 of the mistakes that CFO did, they would receive harsh criticism. We were approached by various buyers. One of them was one of the largest real estate developers in this country. Let's call them Mackey. We had a few meetings with senior executives from Mackey to present our North American properties. They seemed to be interested to invest $100 million in acquiring the property, but then they just disappeared. Later on, we were approached by a private equity firm, let's call Dummy. Rather than acquiring the property, Dummy made an offer for shares of COG. As a result, a series of due diligence occurred. I had to lead the deal from my side. During the process of document preparation, I found various histories about Jerk and COG. Jerk always claimed to his potential clients that his company had been involved in various projects worth billions of dollars in the past. It was partially true. However, his participation was very limited to less than 1% of those projects. There were a few projects in which COG played a vital role. However, these projects were relatively small. To make matters worse, 100% of them had failed before completion. There were various companies that Jerk claimed to have co-founded or was a part of the key management. However, there were no official records of it. By digging into financial statements, I found out that he paid back all of the money he saved by cutting employee salaries into his personal account as a form of bonus. I felt horrible for working for such a phony. However, at that time, it was in Q4 of 2020. It was way too difficult to get a new job in the middle of lockdown. The last straw came when we were about to submit the financial model to Dummy to set the valuation. I developed a financial model which would calculate all of the potential deals into the valuation. All I needed was the input of pipeline data from CFO. After I plugged in the data, Jerk asked CFO to help review it. CFO complained to everyone that the model was wrong and there were so many mistakes. When I checked, all those mistakes that he mentioned came from those inputs that he provided to me. Garbage in, garbage out. I informed Jerk that it was not my mistake, but the CFO's. However, Jerk criticized me for not being responsible for my own mistakes and said that even though it was CFO's mistake, I was still responsible to verify them. How could I verify the correctness of the raw data? I wanted to quit so badly at this point. Remember the 3-month notice period? This is where it became relevant. Throughout 2020, various employees quit. However, the term became a pain in the butt. It would be highly difficult for anyone to find potential employers who would be willing to wait for 3 months till the notice period is served. Thus, employees had to either pay the penalty fees or put in their resignation in advance before starting to look for another job. For the locals, we could take the risk of staying at home with no job. However, the expats needed to choose either to take a risk in leaving the country or to pay the fees. Most chose to do the latter. The worst thing I experienced about this contract clause was when one of my colleagues, who was one of the first employees of this company, decided to quit because her grandmother was about to pass in a few weeks. Therefore, she wanted to go back as soon as possible to spend the remaining time with her grandmother. Yet, Jerk insisted that she needed to pay the penalty fee. In every meeting, Jerk would try his best to scare everyone by talking about those companies that went bankrupt and trying to remind us to be grateful for having jobs. I held my grudge and waited patiently until February of 2021. The lockdown became better and employers started hiring again. I got 3 offers within the second week of the month. Based on the situation, I knew I would eventually get a job either in these 3 companies or somewhere else. Thus, I submitted my resignation, which would be effective in May. Jerk was furious. He knew he could not lose me at this stage since I was the only one who could execute with dummy, but he was too arrogant to admit it. Instead, he gave me the worst counteroffer discussion anyone could have. He said that I was a coward for jumping away from the crisis, and I would be a failure all my life if I chose to walk away now. He tried to talk about all the deals that would be coming in, and I would miss out on working on those projects. He said that I should ignore the higher salary that other companies might offer me. The lockdown was harsh for everyone. I should stay to see the company's greatness. In the meantime, I could ask for money from my parents or my wife's parents. Needless to say, the conversation did not change my mind even a bit. With all those efforts failed, he brought up the 3-month notice period. He said that no company would be willing to wait 3 months and that I needed to pay a penalty fee to him if I quit. Unfortunately, this is when his own policy backfired. I intentionally did all of the stupid mistakes that CFO did. When he complained, I simply responded, it was his responsibility to verify the information that I submitted. I did my job very slowly. Thus, he basically had to pay me 3 months' salary for the work I normally completed in 1 week. Whenever he complained, I told him that he could fire me anytime. In that case, he needed to pay me 3 months' salary as a penalty fee. For a person who always takes advantage of his employees, he probably wanted to scream at me. However, this was not the best part yet. By the end of April, HR from Mackie approached me. She said that she got my contact from a business card I gave to the senior executives several months ago. It turned out that the executives were very impressed with my skills. They wanted to hire a new vice president and viewed me as a high potential candidate. I took the offer and started working 2 weeks later. A few months later, Jerk tried to use all of his connections to reach Mackie's chairman to propose his North American property once again. The chairman assigned my team to review the property one more time. Last time, they were interested, but they did not want to make an acquisition in the middle of lockdown. This time, they felt the timing might be right and would like to explore more detail. My boss assigned me to look after the project. Since I knew everything about the property, he let me decide whether we should move forward with the deal. To be honest, the property was fine, and Jerk had improved the property's performance very well since its acquisition. However, a year ago when we first approached Mackie, Jerk explained to me how he would take every penny he could out of Mackie's pockets. To avoid criticizing Jerk directly, I don't want to look like a guy who badmouthed his ex-employer. I pointed out all the loopholes within the business model and explained that we could be taken advantage of from these loopholes if we proceed. Being a smart man, my new boss could sense something fishy about Jerk, so he asked me to speak more about my experience. I told him about some of Jerk's unethical behaviors mentioned above. Mackie's management not only decided not to invest in COG's properties, but they also blacklisted COG and Jerk from being potential vendors. Am I the jerk for telling my brother's new fiance she isn't our kid's aunt? I, male 31, and my wife, female 30, have 2 kids, a son who's 5 and a daughter who's 2. I also have 2 siblings, an older brother who's 35 and a younger brother who's 29. Me and my older brother both have kids. My younger has none and has bounced from fling to fling. However, in 2020, before the lockdown hit, he met this girl who is 23. We'll call her Amber, fake name. From day one, he was obsessed with her. They started dating, and when we thought we'd only meet her once and then never again, she stayed coming around. We were all happy to see my brother get serious about someone, even if they were a bit younger than him. However, as Amber started spending more time around our family, collectively, we all noticed certain things that we didn't like. For just a couple of examples, she would move something in whoever's house we were in and say, "This looks better like this, so I moved it for you." Or she would get into people's stuff and say, "We're family now, so we can share." Such as when she used my sister-in-law's lotions and makeup without even asking. But this was the quote that made us all dislike her. She would constantly talk proudly about how she turned my, quote, "spineless baby brother" into a man. Okay, unnecessary, but he was a player before, so I get the joke. But then she added, "I'll do what your mom couldn't and teach him to be a gentleman." And yes, she really has said that on more than one occasion. We've all mentioned these things to my brother, but he brushes it off and says, "I love her, dude. What can I do?" And well, he proposed to her at the beginning of 2022. And no, she hasn't changed her antics since 2020. Anyway, Amber came over with my brother for my wife's birthday party. Of course, my kids were there too. Amber, in front of a full house of mine and my wife's family, she says, "Oh, it's my favorite niece and nephew," before picking up my daughter. She added, "Am I your favorite auntie?" in a baby voice, as if she was saying it to my daughter. I walked over and took my daughter out of her hands and said in a calm but stern tone, "You're not their aunt, so please don't refer to yourself as their aunt." She seemed taken aback and immediately got defensive, saying, "I'm marrying your brother, so I will be their aunt by marriage." I just shrugged and calmly responded that I didn't care if they got married. She could be Mrs. Amber or Amber, but she was not their aunt. A few people heard and pretended not to, but Amber was upset and left, and my brother came in asking what had happened. After I told him, he said I was a jerk and he took off after Amber. My brother called me that night, saying I needed to apologize and take back what I said, but I refused to. My kids hardly know or spend time with her, and she's not very well liked amongst our family. So, am I the jerk? You're the jerk. You can dislike her and keep her away from your kids all you want, but she will in fact be their aunt. Ha, no. If the parents don't want to give that label, she doesn't get it. She will be their uncle's wife. People's cultures and families are different, and labels are dished out differently. Everyone sucks here. I think you all suck. The way you handled it was inappropriate. She will be your family by marriage, therefore she will be their aunt by marriage. Also, Amber sucks. She needs to know what her place is. The statement she made about your mother and brother is a big no-no. But you talk to your brother, not to Amber. I'm not saying it would have changed anything, but perhaps it would have. Not the jerk. You don't have to consider her family. Sometimes, even blood doesn't mean much. It's really your call. This. I think people are getting caught up in technical terms. I called basically any adult that I liked and that my parents liked and her uncle. Those terms are often terms of love or respect, as well as an official term. If she doesn't act like what OP or her kids feel like an aunt should, then she's not their aunt in any way that matters. Do this next. Tap here on your screen to come see our new podcast playlist, where you'll find thousands of hours of the best stories you've ever heard.
Or tap the one on the right. That episode is specifically just for you, based on other videos you've enjoyed the most.